Hello, good afternoon. Happy Friday to you. Hope everyone has got a nice weekend planned. It's Savva and Kuvva here. Would you like to tell us why you've changed your name to Kuvva?
Yeah, tribute to Gianluca Vialli, who was, although he played for one of our rivals in Chelsea, what a player he was. Really iconic figure of his time. Always known for having a bit of a smoke after the game and stuff. Things that don't really happen nowadays unless you're Jack Wilshere. But yeah, it's sad to see him go. I mean, you've got to appreciate talents in other teams when it isn't your own sometimes. And it was back in an era when I found Chelsea tolerable despite the rivalry. There was between the likes of Dan Petrescu in there, Vialli, Zola, LeBeuf and Lasso, and it was kind of a secret. Yeah, and I appreciate what you're doing there, but it's still Chelsea.
It was new money at the time, and it was quite exciting to see players come over. 20 years later, it's now like, oh Jesus Christ, they're still doing it. But look, RIP to Gianluca Vialli. What a phenomenal striker! I thought he was during that era of Italy having the likes of in their league having Asprilla, Zola, Ravanelli, Batistuta, George Weir, Vialli, Casaraghi. I mean, Shevchenko, Del Piero. But what a player, eh? You're on mute. You're on mute still.
That's better. I was just sorting out some windows in the background, so I was trying not to blast out with a repeat of the show going on.
No worries.
Yeah, I mean, it's days gone by, isn't it? I mean, it's a good, what was it, 96 to 99, I think, was these years at Chelsea. It's somewhere around there. I know it was just before ENIC came in anyway. So, must have been close to Abramovich at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, moving on to Tottenham Hotspur, just before we do, what we're going to do today is Kuvva and I have picked what we believe to be the 20 best signings under ENIC, give or take. There's always going to be some discrepancies. We're going to talk about the players, talk about why we put them in there, the impact they had on this club, what their strengths were. And then at the end of the show, we will tell you which 10 we decided on. So we won't tell you who's made our 10 to begin with. We'll just talk about the players. Please join in the chat. When we're talking about the players, tell us, why were they great? Did you rate them? How much did you rate them? Should they have stayed longer? Should we have sold them sooner? You join in. Just before we do, I did just want to bring up one thing with you, Kuvva. Yesterday, I talked a lot on the show about knee-jerk football fans and how we react to things. Hello, Frank. Welcome to the show. We talked about, he's turned his back on me. Look, that sums my life up. We talked about knee-jerk football reactions, and I just want to get your opinion on this. The Athletic have written a piece today that goes like this. Brian Hill, Tottenham's new cult hero, from unused sub to born to play football. Kuvva, if there was ever anything that summed up 21st century football fans, football writers, this is it, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah. Sensationalized beyond belief. You could have... Do you remember the Spanish player we got, Jose Dominguez?
Yeah.
We got the same with him. He was like hero worship for like 1.5 games where he was amazing.
I loved him. He'd come on 10 minutes at the end, do a few tricks, and we'd all go, oh.
Yeah, you'd go home happy. You probably got beaten 3-1, but you go and have a few pints and talk about it. It's not quite that with Hill. I think Hill's got talent. I think we all appreciate that there is some sort of talent there, but I mean, it's got to prove it over the course of time. You just can't just say that straight away.
We do say some fun. I mean, but let's be fair. How much of our fan base was doing this kind of ridiculous praise on him and Sarr after neither of them played 90 minutes, and yet we're going on as though like they've turned up, scored a hat-trick, got 2 assists in the same game, tore them to pieces. But as you said,
I remember when many of us were calling out Emerson Royale at the start of his Spurs career, saying this bloke is crap, he's not a footballer. There were so many people going, no, he just needs time, he's really good. And I just thought, why are you doing this? He
Yeah.
hasn't proved anything. Why the sort of fanatical backing of somebody that hasn't proved anything? It's no, they've got to earn their place. Hill, I'll say, I'm pleased with what he did. He had a good game against Crystal Palace. More of the same, please. Prove yourself. That'd be great.
Yeah. By the way, I'm fully aware that Conte said that. It's just the fact that they've grabbed that one line from Conte, chucked in cult hero. Cult heroes do not play for 45 to 60 minutes once in their career and they're a cult hero. A cult hero for me would be, who was a cult hero at Tottenham? Maybe a Stefan Daumer.
Stefan Freud.
Stefan Freud would be a cult hero, yeah. Not someone who's played like an hour of football in the first team.
Timu Teano.
Oh, Timo Tiano. Isn't his son in the youth team?
Yeah, I think he is. You might be right.
His son's in the youth team, right?
To be fair, I really liked him. He really got stuck in, didn't he?
He was one of those. It was needed at the time because he was Martin Yole, wasn't he? He was.
Yeah.
By the way, he's not in our 20. By the way, this isn't. We haven't started our 20 yet. No. We're not chucking in.
He's no Stefan Everson, that's for sure.
No, absolutely. 1 second, I just need to post something out, and then we can. Bear with me, everybody. Bear with Savva. I should have done this before. Copy. Bear with me. And we are. Sorry, I should have done this before. I've not set myself up properly.
And they call me out for having.
I know. I'm so sorry. Right, Kuvva, let's go. So we want to talk about the 20 best signings under ENIC and Levy. Now, this is obviously going to depend on the era someone was born. This is going to depend when people started watching football, individual preference. Are we saying it's about?
Shall we add one to the list each and build it up? Because we can pretend we're doing it on the fly instead of talking about it before we started, can't we?
I haven't talked to you about this, right? Have I? I mean, thanks, Kuvva. Sure. I tell you what. Let's kick off with Jermaine Defoe. I'm going to kick off with Jermaine Defoe. For me, 2 different stints at this club. Scored goals for fun. He was your proverbial striker. He's not a modern day drop deep. He's not a modern day run the channels. He's not a modern day hold up the ball. He is 2 up top. He's the little bloke. He will get the knockdowns and he's going to score goals. What did you make of Jermaine Defoe?
Well, there's 2 bits you've got to give him credit for. Firstly, what a goal poacher. He scored a bucket load of goals for us. There's no doubt about it. So he's got to get some sort of respect to start with. As you said, he'd play off the shoulder of the last defender, constantly offside, but that's just the way he played to get the advantage, wasn't it? So there was always a bit of fun to go with it. Oh, offside again, Defoe. But he just had something about him, didn't he? That ability to get a shot away in the blink of an eye, and he wasn't scared to have a pot from anywhere. It was one of those players for me. I think the only reason he lets himself down for me is I always saw him as one of those strikers where he'd score a couple of goals when you're already 3-0 up, but rarely score the one to get you to 1-1 or get you ahead. Yeah. But at the end of the day, goals are goals.
He got over 150 goals in all competitions for the club. Do you know his goal ratio is actually the same as Heung-min Son's? Different players, different eras, really different formations. But listen, what I loved was that era when you had him, Berbatov, Kane, Berbatov, Keane, and Ben all at the same time. And I just look at that and think, can you imagine now, Kuvva, in these games where we're struggling and needing goals, and you're bringing on a Robbie Keane, you're bringing on a Jermaine Defoe. Those days have gone. And I know people will go, well, we've got Richarlison. I know if I want a goal who I'm bringing on between Richarlison and Jermaine Defoe, if I'm being brutally honest. I know who I want one-on-one with a keeper.
Yes, horses for courses, isn't it? If you think you've got to really mess things up and go physical with the opposition, Richarlison's your choice. But if you're looking to nick a goal out of nothing and you're struggling a bit, chuck Defoe on. poacher.
Yeah.
I think the other bit to acknowledge with just Jermaine Defoe is all that work he does charity wise. What an ambassador for the sport he is. Absolute legend. I've got nothing but respect for the man.
The work the friendship he formed with that poor little Bradley lad that passed away in Sunderland. And listen, all round great guy. I mean, all round great guy. I thought he had a wonderful career. And listen, he scored goals wherever he went. West Ham, Portsmouth, Spurs, Sunderland. I remember him scoring some absolute worldies. Rangers, England. I miss players like that now. If I'm honest, that's what I want coming off our bench. That's what not just the bench. Can you imagine? Here you go. What about Kane and Defoe? With Kane dropping in deep, Defoe running off him, putting through balls into his feet for Defoe, who, for me, it was the backlift. That he managed to get the shots away with minimal backlift, and he just amazing. I think it would be brilliant.
It's one of the traits I had with same as Defoe was I could shoot with almost no backlift. There was something natural about it. The thing is, he used to hit the back of the net, and I used to hit the floodlights. That's the only difference, really. And I know what you mean. That's what I mean. It's blink of an eye getting the shot away. Defenders can't react to it because he's not really shaping up to take a shot. It's out of the blue. You catch keepers out of position, all flat-footed with it. Very, very talented individual. I don't think he was given enough credit by other teams, to be honest.
I agree. I mean, just before we move on from Jermaine Defoe, look, what we can't ignore is he's the only Spurs striker in the Premier League era to score 5 goals in a game. The 9-1 v Wigan, for me, was a masterclass in how to finish. Every one of his goals was textbook what striker coaches will teach forwards when going low and hard across the goal, like Kane's the other night. Yeah, it just. Do you remember that game?
Yeah. The trouble is, you bring up bad memories there with the 9-1. I'm still very salty about that game. With that goal they got that should have been offside.
VAR would have sorted that out. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
VAR would have sorted that out. But I mean, even I think David Bentley got on the act with a free kick, if I remember. One of the gang, Nico. Nico and the gang. He got on the act. He
did. He did indeed.
Yeah. Oh God. Give me Harry Redknapp football all day long. Give me that.
Here's one for you. What was the halftime scoreline?
Wasn't it 1-0 to Spurs?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Wasn't it like
ridiculous, wasn't it? 8 second goals.
Yeah.
Mental.
I'm pretty sure it was that or 1-1 or something really low, and then all of a sudden, boom. Let's move on. Jermaine Defoe. Will he make our top 10? You'll see at the end. We talked about Jermaine. There he is. Thank you, Jermaine, for all the memories. Go on. You can pick one, Kuvva, from our 20 if you want.
Oh, let's go. We'll sort of build up with excitement, I think, and start with somebody a little bit lower down on the list. I'll go for Danny Rose.
Danny Rose. Why? Yeah. Why does Danny Rose make one of our best signings under ENIC? So this is from 2001, people. Please, I'm seeing already comments of people going, what about Klinsmann? And what about just a little bit before ENIC's era? So why Danny Rose?
Yeah, Danny Rose, believe he was £1 million from Leeds. Very, very cheap signing. So it does work sometimes.
Yeah.
But I just love right on the start, that debut goal he got against the Gooners. What a strike that was. The left shotted foot from about 2 miles out. And I just love this full-blooded attitude. It put heart and soul into every game, bombing up and down the flank all game.
Yeah.
And what I absolutely, not only was he creating a few goals and saving us a few goals, he was out of position a few times. He wasn't perfect, but it was bloody exciting. And what I absolutely adored about the bloke is when things kicked off, and he'd come up against somebody who's about 6'4" and weighs about 4 times the amount he does, he'd square up to them. He was scared of nobody. He'd get on there with that angry look on his face, shoving them away, chest out. It was just funny as hell. I just liked his attitude. It was really, really good to see. It mattered the game's cared. If it wasn't going well, he was upset. I want to see that from our players.
Do you know what I liked about him was he kind of was a wing back before we played wing backs, if you know what I mean. You know, he could do the defensive work, but he wanted to go. He wanted to overlap. He wanted to join in. You know, he took a while to settle at Spurs. You know, it wasn't like he just came in and immediately was amazing, but Poch molded him into this very good left back that started playing for England. And off the pitch, what I liked about him as well was, and this was really contentious at the time, and you know what I'm going to say, Kuvva, was at the time when he made his comment about having to Google players, lots of people got on his back. Oh, you know, you're meant to be one of us, blah, blah, blah. I liked it. He called it out.
Yeah.
It showed.
It's one of those harsh realities, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't like hearing it, but, you know, they're right. And the other one that people absolutely to this day are outraged by, and you know which player that's going to be. The player that's angered more fans than anybody else in the club's history.
What, Adebayor?
No.
What,
the big one. Judas. Oh,
sorry. I thought you meant I thought you meant a signing coming in. Judas,
no. When Judas left, and he just said what he said, I thought he's right. He just said there's no ambition at this club.
Yeah.
He was basically saying the same thing that Harry Kane's saying in different words, and saying about if the club backs my ambition, I'll stay.
Yeah.
He didn't stay because we didn't. Kane says the same thing. Doesn't really get highlighted as much. There's no hatred because Kane's still here. But harsh words sometimes from players. But I like it when people come out with a bit of honesty. Gives you an insight to what's actually going on behind the doors, doesn't it?
But it goes to show as well, you know, when these fans stick up and go, oh, well, you know, maybe these are the players that the clubs want to sign, etc. The players in the dressing room will also be looking around going, who are we signing, right? They want to see the players coming in that shows ambition as well. And as we keep saying, do you think that Kane looks around and goes, oh, Brian Hill, Emerson Royale, Galini, all due respect, Joe Rodon, do you think he looks at this and goes, Jesus Christ, when I go to England and link up with Grealish, Foden, all of them, Mount, Maddison's won things. Is there anyone in that England squad? Here you go. There's a quick question on our side. Are there any players in that England squad, mainstays? I don't mean like your Conor Gallagher's. I mean your mainstays for the last 6, 7, 8 years that haven't won trophies at club level. You would say Pickford.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at it. Maguire at the back, has he won anything? I don't know. I don't think he has. I'm not sure.
He wasn't at Leicester when they won the league, was he?
So Maguire, Pickford. When you look at Luke Shaw's won trophies, I'm sure, at Man United. Carl Walker, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Reece James. They've all won trophies.
Trouble is when you say mainstays, otherwise you could pick people like Tarkovsky and that sort of thing. But you're
no, but I mean, you know, the players that are always in the squad.
The regulars,
I don't mean someone that's just made the squad a few times. I mean, like when you look at them, you look at John Stones. You know, you look at
in chat, Declan Rice. That's
Rice. Hasn't. But
I
mean,
probably say that was the that hasn't.
Declan Rice has got. Mate, I guarantee you, Kuvva, Declan anything at West Ham. By the way, Chuck is let's chuck in Toby Alderweireld. For me, Kuvva, this guy changed the game. He came into the Spurs team that already had Vertonghen. This guy never, ever had to go steaming in, never looked like he had himself, wasn't the quickest of Jan Vertonghen. I
think we better one without the other.
Just least goals in Europe in a season at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, what did they do for Tottenham? I mean, what did they do?
Run us up to Chelsea, and if we'd had those extra points from a strike, a sort of one of those VDV type signings, we could be talking about league winners back to back almost. The stats really added up at those times. People were pointing out if you put the two seasons together, we were like top scorers, best defense, most points.
Yeah.
That was it was like the peak of it all working perfectly. And the
It should have won
understanding,
something. It should have.
yeah, like I said, like we were saying, that's when you invest, when you're at that
For
point
sure.
nearly to go there, and then we just don't.
But do you remember, Kuva, how many fans at that time said, I feel a lot of it was, a lot of the narrative changed. Lots of fans were saying that. But then when we didn't buy players, they were like, oh my God, he's not backed the manager. And it was like, well, do you want new players or not? But look, sorry, mate. Yeah, go on. Jan and Toby.
Perfect blend, wasn't it? For me, I actually defender is and better captaincy, but
not by the way, not that I thought one was there and the other was here. I thought it was. I just loved them both. I loved them both. They were sublime.
It's kind of like saying who was best out of the partnership with Ledley and Woodgate for that season. It was just
yeah.
You're just thinking, you know, this one's more creamy than that one, and they're both at the top. That underload when one's going forward to make a challenge, the other one back is in position to cover. It was just natural for the two of them. I think just quality football as well, on the ball and off the ball. That's the key. I think you put the ball at either of those feet, they're going to pick out passes. Jan with some of his runs up the pitch where he do a pirouette, the custom long ball of his gets criticised for trying it too much, but he was really successful with it.
Just quickly, sorry, everyone's saying the stream is buffering. Is that true? I've got full Wi-Fi on the go, full fiber. I'm not getting any buffering my side.
No,
I've got no issues my end. 1 second, I don't know what's going on here. Because I saw the numbers go from like 100 to 60 within about 2 minutes. So I did wonder what was going on. But even on watching it I watch it at the same time on YouTube, and I'm not getting any buffering at all. Anyway, we'll look, see, Savva's glitching. I'm not getting any glitching, and I'm watching it as well. So apologies, I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, let's crack on, Kuva. Let's crack on.
Oh yeah, I've just tried to load it up now. It is.
I don't know what's going on. I've just checked my Wi-Fi. I've got full signal. Can do me a favor, guys. Can you let me know in like 60 seconds if we still got the same issue? Mine. Yeah, now
I can see it now. Yeah,
it's doing it for me as well. Not really sure what to do at this stage about that, people.
Not sure either. Is it happening? Should we check somebody else's stream and see if it's doing it on theirs?
What do you reckon? It's YouTube at play.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's the Russians having another attack.
Somebody's saying it's fine now. Somebody's saying loads of buffering. Yeah, we've dropped down to like it might be okay now. Internet is. I've got full Wi-Fi on my phone. I've got full Wi-Fi on my thing. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, people saying looks okay now. Anyway.
Okay, it looks okay. Okay, Wi-Fi out. Yeah, as Steve said. Sorry, I let Daniel Levy in charge of my my bills for a few days, and this is what's happened. Okay, hopefully, it's doing it.
Doing it on another stream as well.
Okay, it's doing it all across YouTube. Okay, understood. All right, nothing.
It's the Russians, I'm telling you.
Yeah. We just lost half our viewers of this show, so brilliant. Anyway, let's talk. It's football, right? It's football. We're talking about the good times. Let's see what happens. So let's finish off then. Toby and Jan. The problem for me with those two being in the team at the same time, Kuva, is where we've not going to hit those likes again for a very long time, and we've shown it. Yeah, you've got Romero, who, by the way, I don't think is anywhere near as good as either of those two were. I'm not saying he can't be. I just don't think in their prime he's as.
But just imagine that as a back three.
Oh, for sure. But what I'm saying is, right now, looking at him as a player, I don't see that he's anywhere near as composed as those two. I don't see his positional sense as anywhere as good. I think he'd be brilliant with them in a free for sure. But I don't see at the moment. He's younger. He's a lot younger, right? I don't see that in their peak he was theirs. Guys, in the chat, let us know. What do you reckon then, in terms of Romero, where he is now as a player, not where he could be? Anywhere near as good as Jan and Toby in their prime? But that's what we need to find again, isn't it, Kuvva? We need a relationship like that at the back.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just quality footballers that don't panic on the ball, intelligent enough to understand the tactics and when their partner's going to do something, when they need to cover. Brave enough to make those tackles and put the head in when needed. They had everything. The pair of them. As you said, it was like record breaking for us at the back there. How do you replace them? Spend money. That's what you need to do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
At today's prices, them at their prime, at today's prices, Christ, how much would they go for?
Right. How much is a Toby Alderweireld and a Jan Vertonghen right now in their peak? 70?
Yeah, you're talking 60, 70 million, surely,
right.
aren't you?
Right. I mean, you look. I mean, I like this player, by the way. We should have got Martinez next to Jan. Again, how much did United just have to pay for Martinez? What was that? 55? Was it 60? I don't know.
It wasn't a huge amount, not considering the how skillful he is.
Yeah. We got people. Ben bringing a great point here, saying Romero is a combination of the both of them, but not as good as each of them individually. He needs a calm part next. A really good sentence. The way he writes, he's got a really nice, a nice way of words and a lovely face. Lovely face.
But he doesn't know what a biscuit is, though.
Oh God, no! He's got no idea about biscuits. I've heard his biscuit debates. It's not good.
It's
messy,
not good. Isn't it?
It's poor. Sorry, Ben. Can you go away and swat up? Let's move on from Jan and Toby. We'll see if they made the 10 later on. Go on, your turn to chuck a player in the mix.
Let's go for Kyle Walker.
Kyle Walker. Hit me with it.
What can you say? Amazing athlete, incredible speed, recovery speed. And he was the reason we could play such a high line with such confidence for so long.
Yeah.
Because you'd literally sit the likes of Toby and Jan at the halfway line. Moussa Dembele tucked in behind them or tucked in just in front of them. As long as Kyle Walker's on the pitch, you can keep everybody in the opponent's half of the pitch. If they're going to beat Walker, which wasn't often, you'd have Hugo sweeper keeping. It was a great thing. High risk, high reward. But the way we were playing it with Walker in the team, it wasn't that high a risk.
Yeah.
It paid off. It really paid off. We must have been a nightmare for other teams to play against at that point.
And I blame Rose and Walker for now. And what I mean by that is our benchmark was set. And now the dross we watch at wing back compared to the Rolls Royces that they were. And what I love about Kyle Walker, first of all, look, you can sum up how great Kyle Walker is. The fact that he was the first one of that Poch 11 to go, wasn't he? He was the first one that got the big money move. And people go, oh, he sold us out, blah, blah, blah. Listen, the big move comes. You go and play for Pep Guardiola and his trophy cabinet will make him very justified in what he's done. And it's just his ability to not a lot goes past him. Not a lot, wingers can't beat him for pace. Now he's getting a tad bit older, but no one could beat him for pace. Phenomenally strong, good in the tackle. Just a top player. Yeah, lovely tackle. Just a top fullback. Hence why now, even when you've got Reece James coming through, Alexander-Arnold coming through, you think of all the other right backs that have come through in the last 10 years, Walker is always the England manager's first choice.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think he even improved when he went to play for Pep. Pep does improve players. He became a more sort of more cultured footballer. When he was with us, he was still very raw. Started off with loads of mistakes in him, but you had him in there because he had that amazing pace and physique. That it's something about the name Walker, because I remember years before Nottingham Forest used to have Des Walker, and they used to chant, "You'll never beat Des Walker."
Yeah,
and I'm just thinking we've got exactly the same with a player named Walker as well. Funny that.
Brilliant.
Same sort of thing. Yeah.
just quickly, I'm hearing from lots of people in my WhatsApp that are YouTubers saying that there is a problem with YouTube servers. So apologies, guys. I can't make you stay. If you want to stay, do. If not, you're going to get this on every stream. So apologies. I can't do anything about it. And I want an apology for everyone that said that I didn't pay my Wi-Fi bill. All right. I mean, yeah, look, from Walker, the biggest compliment I can give him is we've gone from Walker to Trippier, and this is in level of how good they are as well. Walker, Trippier, Aurier, Doherty, Royal. It's gone from really, really good to very, very poor very quickly in the space of 5 years, hasn't it? It's really degraded. And sometimes we don't appreciate just how good a player was until we see their replacement, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's just there's been nothing else there. Slow degradation in the quality in both wing back slots. It's like same with Rose, wasn't it? How the hell is Ben Davis going to cover what Danny Rose did? Yet we're expected to believe, he's rock steady left wing back.
Yeah.
No, I think Ben Davis looks a lot more comfortable as a centre back, doesn't he?
He's got 2 new contracts in the last 5 years. I mean, this is where we're at. But yeah, look, I blame that back four. We've just gone through that back four in a row without knowing it. That back four I blame now for giving us the good times, and now we've got to watch what we watch at the back. And I will praise any director of football and manager that can sort that out. Just that has been needing to be sorted out for even before Jan and Toby left. I think they probably stayed a year past their best. And I think that kind of summed up Belgium in the World Cup. The fact that Jan and Toby were still the centre-half pairing, after all these years. Of course, yeah. When Pep, let's be fair, that's what we've always said. Kane wanted to go because Pep called. Let's be fair, if Pep comes and asks for Romero or Kulusevski, let's not kid ourselves that the loyalty is too strong for them to stay.
We talked about this before. It's like with the Harry Kane thing. I'm a lifelong Spurs fan, adore the club. But if I was playing for them and Real Madrid come along, I'm off. Like I said, an espadrille tucking out the suitcase on the way to the airport within about 5 minutes.
It was just a lovely time to be alive. Let's move on. I will chuck in. I'm going to chuck in a player I loved. I love this player. I've often referred to him to you as the most underrated midfielder the Premier League has ever seen. Who am I talking about, Kuvva?
One and only Michael Carrick.
Absolutely brilliant footballer that unfortunately, thanks, Ben. Ben's just WhatsApped me. Thank you. I've seen that it's stable. Van Dijk out for a month. Jordan, don't be one of them generational people that says things like in the mud. Please don't be that guy. Oh, it makes me cringe. But Van Dijk out for a month. Could see Liverpool step into the market this window. Who knows?
They've got problems at the moment, to be fair. But I mean, they're also one of those teams you look at could put 10 wins together.
Well, they had 4 before Brentford. What makes me laugh is everyone was going, "Oh my God, they're terrible." They'd won 4 in a row. Will this make them dip in? Will they trust Matip and Konate as a partnership? We will see. Let's see how they act. But back to Spurs. Michael Carrick, for me, such a shame that we only got him for 2 seasons. We paid 2 million from West Ham, I believe. 2 million.
It wasn't a lot, was it?
Sold him at the time for what was a big fee at the time of about 18 million when fees weren't what they are now. Had this effortless, kind of way about him. He played in that 20-yard little section in midfield, didn't come out of that, and controlled a game from start to finish.
Yeah. He had that weird ability of like when the ball got to him, it's like the rest of the game's put on hold. He would decide what was going to happen and when.
Right. Absolutely.
It's almost like there's no players around him at the time. He's got this zone of invulnerability.
Absolutely.
So calm, so level-headed. Simple passes, no problem. Pick out a worldie every now and then, no problem. Just always knew where to be and when to pick up the ball and just control everything. And I think the biggest endorsement the man could have had is Alex Ferguson, still in his prime, brought him in to run his midfield.
Yeah. I'll come back to this later, James. When we finish talking the 20 players and we talk general Spurs, we'll come back to this comment. I massively agree with you. What I love about Carrick, he's one of those footballers that I don't know if you saw the analysis of Messi, and I'm not going to say he's Messi before anyone says, but in the World Cup they showed the analysis of Messi, and they showed that all these fans, especially English fans, say, "Oh, he doesn't run around, he wouldn't cope." What they actually showed he was doing, he's walking around the pitch and he's looking at where the gaps are, which players are going where, so that when he gets the ball, he doesn't have to look up. He goes, boom, I'm going there.
Yeah.
Carrick, like Xavi, like Rodri, like Busquets, these players, when the ball comes into them, they know the 20, 30 yards around them. They know where the pass is going. They know whether to speed it up or slow it down. And I don't know if you watched Man City last night, but he kind of deployed Rodri in a really strange role in between the attack and the defense, kind of, and they likened it to kind of like what the Kaiser used to do. And players like Carrick have that ability, just a brilliant footballer, right?
Absolutely. I think he's because he doesn't, score all the goals and grab the headlines for that. A lot of fans will always look over him. Don't see how good he is. But I think anybody that really takes a serious interest in the game or has played it themselves will see exactly how well he's been doing. It's kind of like a player for the connoisseur, cultured player.
Should have been Spanish.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
If he was Spanish, he would have had 100 international caps
easily. Yeah,
right. But in England, he had that horrible time of being in the same squad for a decade as Gerrard and Lampard, and no manager knowing how to. For me, it's easy to say now.
As well.
I would have had Carrick in a 3-man midfield with either Lampard, Gerrard, or Scholes, and that would, two of those three would have been in front of them pushing on. I would have built it around Carrick.
Carrick at the back. For me, Scholes and Gerrard ahead. That would have been it.
Yeah.
David, I agree. We'll talk about this later. I thought Chelsea actually. By the way, Chelsea's kids that they've bought, that they've got coming through. Jesus Christ, we got all our knickers in a twist about Sarr having a 20-minute cameo. Some of the kids that were on show last night for City and Chelsea just blow ours out the water. Chuck Wamaker that they bought from Villa. Wow, what a player he looks. Rico Lewis. Anyway, we go off topic. Your turn to pick one. Your turn. Will Carrick make our top 10? We'll see.
We will see. Let's go a little bit more recent. Let's go for Sonny.
Oh, Hong Min Son. The world-class, not world-class player.
That's world-class or not.
World-class, depending who you speak to. Go for it.
Let's go for it. Let's face it, the first season or two, he was struggling at Spurs. We were on the brink of even maybe selling him on. I think Pochettino had to eventually convince him to stay. And he worked his way into the team, started playing very well, and just got better and better. And then as soon as that relationship with Kane started to blossom, we saw the best out of Sonny. The thing is with Son, as far as I'm concerned, he's not that great a player if you have him in just for team play. He is the finishing touch on things.
Yeah.
He's the one that scores that goal in the big game where you need it, or the one where you're not expecting. He's the one that breaks the likes of Manchester City when we're having to defend so deep for so long. It's incredibly valuable he's been to us from that point of view. people might say, yeah, he's only been like a 12 or 15 goal a season striker. But you look at what those 12 or 15 goals have done, really important.
Just quickly, sorry, I can't. When we say Michael Carrick was a good player, Michael Carrick was a player that you built. Listen, the fact that Man U, who were the best team in the country at the time, turned around after 2 years and went, right, we're having him in our midfield for the next decade. The fact that he went into Man United's team, stayed in that team for a decade, won everything with them, and they hadn't really ever replaced him, tells me everything I need to know about Michael Carrick. He was a class act. He was absolutely class. Sorry, I can't. And by the way, Chelsea's kids weren't good. I watched the game. I thought Hall came on, played really well, looked really good. Chukwuemeka looked good. Even that Hutchinson, when he got on the ball, looked lively, trying to make things happen. Gallagher changed the tempo of the game. If they had played for Spurs 24Z, you'd be telling me they're generational by now.
Oh, yeah, no problem. He said, look at the next comment, basically.
Yeah, but when he said Chelsea's kids weren't good, I thought they were. I thought they deserved a point. If I'm honest, I thought they looked good. But listen, that's just me. Philo123 Coy said he's world class. Savva, you're not changing my stance on that. So let me talk a bit about Son. Listen, the whole world class debate again depends on your definition of world class. For me, I don't think the volume of goals suggests world class. I don't think the touch and control suggests world class. And I don't think his game outside of scoring suggests world class. For me...
Oh, sorry, mate. I'll just be 30 seconds, mate.
Go for it, mate. Go for it. For me, I think if Heung-min Son is world class, then I think there are hundreds of world class players in the world, because I just don't think his overall game is good enough. Sorry, that's me. I think world class players trap the ball dead every time. I think world class players don't give the ball away that much. World class players don't run into their man as much as Sonny does. Not for me. Sorry, I think if he. I agree with this. This I agree with. I think he's the bracket beneath with lots of other players. I think, absolutely, I agree. I'd always have Harry Kane over Sonny every day of the week. There's no occasion where I wouldn't. Look, it's not about Kane v Son for me. Kuvva, do you see where I'm coming from? I like Sonny. Yeah. I've always liked Sonny. I think when he's through on goal and he's got no time to think, I think he's one of the deadliest finishers. But if I have to be true to my own, I'm sorry, I'm just getting up some stats. I have to be true to my own benchmark of what I think is world class. And when I look at Heung-min Son, I look at his goals output. It's good. It's good. I don't think there's anything amazing there. I think he's had 1 year last year where you go, yeah, that was a top season. The other seasons I would say were good seasons, but not numbers that we don't see elsewhere. And last thing I'll say, Kuvva, for me, it's the all-round play that makes a footballer world class. Touch, control. Touch, control. Ability to go in, join in, link up play. I don't think.
Oh, that's a tough one.
I don't think.
I'm thinking back, and would you say Gary Lineker was a world class striker?
I would say Gary Lineker at a different era was a world class finisher. Different game.
Different. Yeah.
There's different terminology. I think Heung-min Son, I don't even think he's a world-class finisher. I think Sonny is a very good finisher, but his all-round game, and I've said this for 7-8 years, his all-round game for me is not good enough for me to chuck in the bracket of world-class. Would you chuck Mbappe in the world-class bracket?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. Here's my point. I've got Messi and Ronaldo, well, Messi still now, but Messi and Ronaldo for years were in that bracket on their own that goes beyond. Then for me in the world-class bracket, you had Neymar, Mbappe, De Bruyne, this bracket, right? You could put many players in there. Iniesta, all of these people. Then the next bracket below for me is your Salahs, your Hazards, your Sons. I feel that you've got to have the all-round package to be called world-class. And this era, we call everyone world-class. Everyone's world-class. It's just too much for me.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, one of the stipulations I tend to put on myself for calling out world-class is, can he get into any team in the world without looking out of place? I'm not sure if Son can.
I don't think he can.
Would he get into the City starting 11 at
Not
any
a
time?
chance.
No, I don't think so.
He can't. He wouldn't be able to play the. See, this is the thing. So people will go now, well, oh, Jack Grealish gets in it. But the difference is Jack Grealish and Foden, who might not be sensational goal scorers, their technical ability, all-round ability, lets them play in that formation. It lets them play in that system. That holding on to the ball, linking up, that one touch. Would he get in above Vinicius Junior at Real Madrid? Would he get in above the Bayern Munich players? I'm not so sure, mate. I'm not so sure that he would. Not anymore. I don't know. For me, I'm hard to please.
At the moment, he couldn't, but in when he was Sonny at his prime for us, I think he'd get in a few of those teams, probably around the Bayern Munich teams and things like that. I think Man City's a little bit different.
Just quickly, when I see comments like this, Pep would take Son in a heartbeat. Okay, but this tells me you don't know anything about the way Pep Guardiola plays football. But this is the thing that fans don't do. Like we got to look at how Pep Guardiola's teams play, right? All of Pep Guardiola's players, forget the forward, the three in midfield and the two that play wide and then cut in, they're all link-up players. They're all the Bernardo Silvas, the Gundogans, the Grealishes, the Mahrez, the Fodens. None of them now.
Kulusevski is far more Pep's cup of tea for a forward. Yeah.
Right. Kulusevski is because he's technically better. Son, through on goal, for me, that's not how City play. City play, whenever City play a team, they've got 10 men behind the ball, right? And there's no room to run in. Son's game is about running in. So I don't think, look, again, Philo, Son would get in any team in the world. So he's better than Vinicius Junior. Does he get in above Mbappe and Neymar at PSG? Does he get? I don't think he does. Does he play the football Pep likes? I feel like this is the problem. We have this bias.
Yeah. To be fair, I think when Sonny was his peak for us, and I'll go back. I don't even count last season at his peak. I think we have best value out of him during the times when we were challenging for the title.
This Kuvva, this comment, yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He suits Liverpool. He is not technically good enough to play Man City's tick-attacker. To play that, you've got to be brilliant on the ball.
I was also going to say, though, Sonny, if at prime his peak for us, if he'd gone to a Liverpool or a Real Madrid, I think it would have been a success.
Agreed. I agree. But now, I think there's been too many seasons for Son, though, where, look, I think Son's a really good player. I do. I think Son's a really, really good player. And I know that people hate it when I say he's not world class, but for me, when I look at other players around the world in world class, and maybe that have retired now or in that even now, I don't see that. Sorry, his all-round game isn't good enough, and the fact world-class players don't have 5-6 month periods like Heung-min Son has. I'm sorry, they don't. I don't remember world-class players doing this. That's why I don't put Hazard there. Hazard, for me, phenomenal footballer. But Hazard would have seasons where he goes missing. And that's why when we talk about world class, for me, it's about output, technical ability, all-round game, and the key word for me in all of this, consistency. Yeah? Mbappe, year in, year out. Yeah? Neymar's an issue. We'll talk about him in a minute. Xavi's, the Iniestas, the Pirlos, the these type of players, the Ronaldos, the Messis, these players year in, year out, phenomenal. Son for me just drops too many times where that level drops. Then he has a spike. Then he drops. Then he has a spike. Not for me.
I agree. The consistency is the key bit, because Sonny on his best day is unplayable. But it's not that every week, is it? Well, you wouldn't expect it every week, but you'd expect it regularly. It's more hopeful for him now, isn't it, rather than the expectation. You look at the difference with. Oh, sorry, just finish quickly. You notice the difference between, say, Harry Kane, who I think is world class, is when Kane's getting written off like he has been this season. And he's not at his best. He's off form. He's still banging in 15 goals in 18 games.
That's right. This is it. I mean, this comment. This is an interesting one. When we're saying peak City had Sterling, Sane, Son is the same type of player. Since they've lost his pace on the wing, they've declined. Now, let's pull this apart. Sané was at City for how long before Pep shipped him off immediately? So we can't really say peak City was about Leroy Sané. He shipped him off quick time, right? Sterling, interesting one. Sterling is an interesting one. I agree with you. But to say City have declined, let's look at this. City won the league last year, again, with 93 points. Yeah? This year, they're tucked right in behind Arsenal, right? When we're saying they've declined, is that more of a hope than an expectation? I just think we've got to be careful. For me, look, I know Spurs fans love Sonny. I love Sonny. But I just feel like there's many players I would have above him. Salah, who another player, by the way, who I don't think is world-class technically, Kuvva. I watch him with the ball at his feet. Sometimes it bumbles about. Sometimes he gets through players more through luck than...
He's another one of those. When he's not at his peak, he's not scoring goals, is he?
Right.
And when he is at his peak, he's unplayable as well. Similar comparison. I think the comparison between the two is obvious, and that's why I put Kane ahead of him.
Agreed. Look, at the end of the day, I think it's interesting. Listen, I've said this about Son for many years. I have, Kuvva. I've always had the same opinion on Son. I know Spurs fans get really upset, but for me, world-class players, their technical ability is second to none. And when I'm looking at Heung-min Son, other than the year when he got 23 goals last year, he had good goal-scoring seasons, but there wasn't anything in there that made me go, oh. There's nothing in there that made me stand up and...
To be fair, as a wide attacker, I would say you shouldn't expect more than 12, 15 a season, something like that. Because they tend to be the sort of player that fits into a system where 4 or 5 players are getting double figures. Lots of teams, especially when playing the 4-2-3-1 formation or whatever, you'd have your main striker and then the 3 behind them, all supposed to be chipping in with the goals. That's what Sonny was all about. It was kind of never the main man, but last season he became it.
Yep. Listen, I completely agree with you. I'm not expecting, but what I've seen is, in terms of, I'm not just basing this on numbers. That's what I say. That's what I'm saying. His numbers have been good. I'm basing this on all-round game. All-round game for me. I watch far too much when it's just constantly a move breaking down on Heung-min Son. I'm not having a go at him. I like him. I'm not having a go, but I'm not. Anyway, Heung-min Son's been brilliant for Spurs. That's where we're at with one of the best signings for Spurs. The longevity's been great. Do you think he's still at Spurs through choice? Now, what I mean by that, Kuvva, is do you believe in that time there's been any concrete bids for him that Spurs have rejected? Or is he simply there because no one's actually come in and whacked down a big enough bid?
No, if we'd had a bid in for him and it was rejected, we'd have heard about it.
Right. So here's my second point to that. If Heung-min Son is this world-class elite footballer that everyone's told me is, why I'm hearing he can get into any team in the world. Why then have Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Man City. Why have none of these come in for him? That's my only thing. City came in for Kane, didn't pay the money, but they came in for him. Why is...
I think if he was valued at say 40 million in the last few years, somebody would have come in for him. But we value him a lot higher than that. We know how much value he has. Short sales and interest in Asia alone, he's worth his weight in gold. The value to us is immense, and people aren't going to match that price tag so easily.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, too long on Son, I reckon. It's always going to be a debate about world class and stuff on him.
Oh, of course.
Great player though. It's been fantastic for us, and
Absolutely.
love him a bit. Love him a bit.
I mean, this is an interesting one. When we're talking about faults on Haaland and saying, I wouldn't call him technically brilliant, but I definitely call him world class. The thing for me with Haaland is, first of all, he's still young, so he's still got that. Technically, sometimes I watch him, and I do think it's a bit raw. Sometimes I watch him and I think great feet. But the sheer volume of goals this boy gets, the sheer volume, I don't know. Am I calling him world class yet? I don't know. He'll definitely be there very soon. The volume of goals by 22 is just ridiculous, Kuvva, isn't it? His goal record at this age is what most strikers finish their career on.
Yeah, easily world class for me, despite the technical bit. Well, actually, I think it's unfair to say he's not technically brilliant, because when he needs to be, it's when he brings the ball down and slams it in the net. I mean, pick your moments. He's just this unreal goal-scoring cyborg, isn't he? He's like nothing I've seen. It's utterly unstoppable, physically incredible, with such pace and acceleration, yet the height and strength to go with it. Just unreal.
But by the way, just quickly, Klopp has been Son's greatest admirer. Listen, that's great, but if you don't go in and whack down a beard, it doesn't really mean anything. I could, we could turn around and say Conte is Lionel Messi's biggest admirer. It doesn't really mean anything if the bid isn't there, right? I'm not knocking it. And I'll also question that, why haven't more people come in for Kane over the years? I'm going to say the same thing. The top players for me, they go to top clubs. I'll ask this. Here you go. Here's a question in the chat. Who can name me truly, truly world-class players that are either at the end of their career or have retired, that won it all, but didn't go to top clubs at one point in their career? This will be interesting. Can you think of any, Kuvva?
What, that won it all?
But they don't have to have won it all, but top, truly, well, I'm talking about, no, there's no debate they were world class. Look at Ronaldo and Messi playing for the best clubs in the world, right? I'm talking about your Ruud van Nistelrooy's, right? These sort of players that have moved to the Madrids, to the Munichs, to the Man Uniteds. You know, for me, at one point, the top clubs will come in for you if you are that good. The same way Bellingham right now. The same way everyone's going goggle-eyed over Bellingham. I'm not saying he's world class.
Yeah, by the way, I'm trying to think of a few players in Italy, because they've got a habit of sticking to one club. Some of those, so you get great players that are one club men. That's
is this a real question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you combine all the Spurs players, you might be as good as Mbappe, I suppose.
Yeah.
No, he's just way ahead of anything we are. Kane
we couldn't even dream of signing a player like Kylian Mbappe.
It literally they had a bid of what, 200 million, was it? Turned it down, even though he only had 6 months left on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
And we're haggling over the likes of the one in Italy. I've forgotten the name now. 11 million or something. Yeah, that very much Spurs level, isn't it?
Yeah,
global superstar, and could have so easily have ended up as a World Cup winner as well.
Let's look at some of the names in the chat. So the one that's come up a lot is Totti. Yeah, absolutely. Totti was different class. Letizia for me was class. I don't know if I'm going to say that he had like a whole career of being a world-class footballer. I loved him. I thought he was sensational. Shearer is a good shout. Shearer's a very good shout. won the league with
Just
Blackburn.
the one trophy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, good shout. Gerrard, I mean, Liverpool are one of the biggest clubs in the world. He won everything there other than the league, couple of Champions Leagues.
Couple of Champions Leagues, leave it at that. He's
right. You know what I mean? I feel like what I'm going for more here is, let's be fair, as much as Liverpool are one of the biggest clubs in the world, we can't debate that. They are. Totti again, Raul. Didn't Raul play for the biggest club in the world forever?
Won a lot.
didn't Raul play for Real Madrid?
Yeah.
Pele, yeah. I mean, we're going back to the 60s and 70s there. I think I'm talking more about now in this market where big clubs
doesn't even matter. 3 World Cups.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Again, Totti, Buffon played for Juventus that were winning Champions Leagues and league titles. Batistuta, Roma, Fiorentina. Could we say they were the big clubs in Italy a few years ago? I don't know. Henrik Larsson, I'm not sure I'm going to put Larsson in that bracket. Good player, very good striker, but I'm not really sure that's I'm talking truly world class here. Joaquin, for me, again, not that level. Carlos Valderrama, not that for me. Only for me, Kuvva. Tell me if you disagree.
Good player, fun to watch.
For sure. Savva, do you think Kane is better than Haaland? At what? There needs to be a question mark. At what? If we're talking purely putting the ball in the net, the only way I can compare this, to be fair, the only way, because they're at different stages in their career, is what was Kane's record at the age of 22. That I don't know how to compare it otherwise, because Harry Kane's had 10. What is he? 20, he's 30 this year. So he's 8 years older than Erling Haaland. And Kane, if I remember rightly, wasn't breaking into the first team until about 22, 23, right? 21, 22.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Difficult to say, but what I do know is this guy will break. This guy's goal record when he finishes playing football will eclipse Harry Kane. And Harry Kane's got a phenomenal goal scoring record. So put that into... I mean, the geezer's on 21 goals in his first season in the Premier League after 17 games of football. I don't remember a striker ever doing this, Kuvva, ever. Van Nistelrooy, Drogba, Shearer, any of them doing this. Anyway, look, all food for thought. Paul Gascoigne. Paul Gascoigne, slightly more difficult because of the injuries he had, right? Interesting one, Kuvva, right? Interesting one. Clearly world class. Del Piero was at Juventus, my friend. Neville Southall. I don't know. I feel we're being really generous.
Neville Southall won lots with Everton.
Yeah, we did. We're talking about world. Don't forget, we're not just talking about people who play for big clubs. I'm talking about world class. World class, right? Batigol, Kinkladze. Again, I'm not sure I'm going to whack him in that bracket. Jimmy Greaves played for Chelsea, Milan, the Spurs. But remember at the time, Spurs were massive when he played for Spurs. You've got to remember that. At the time, Tottenham Hotspur were winning leagues.
Borodin's right. Kuvva will like the one that he suggested. Tom Finney, the Preston plumber. You got to know your football history to know who Tom Finney is, but an incredible winger. And he didn't win anything, if I remember rightly. Nothing at all.
Listen, okay, if we're calling Neville Southall world class, cool. I'm cool with that. I always thought he was a very good keeper. I never put him up there with the greats, but that, again, only me.
I actually would. I thought he's an incredible goalkeeper. Yeah.
Kane is clear of Haaland in most aspects of his game. Okay. All right.
Yes, it's a really difficult one comparing those two, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I would say the fact that Erling Haaland was in talks in the summer with Barcelona, Man City, all of the biggest clubs in the world tells me all I need to know, I'm afraid. The fact that he's doing it at 22, you've got to remember you're comparing one player who's probably got one move left in him and whose legs are not what they were to a 22-year-old who's been on the scene for 4 or 5 years and already scored over 200 goals. Yeah, you've got to... I'll put it like this. If Spurs had signed Erling Haaland and he got 21 goals in 17 games, we'd be telling the world he's the best thing ever.
Yeah,
this is the thing.
No doubt.
The fact that I've got Spurs fans telling me Heung-min Son is world class, and then they want to put Haaland down. For me, I didn't say Everton have never been massive. I'm not sure. I think Everton were a huge club at the time. For me personally, I wouldn't put him in that bracket, but Kuvva would, and that's where we are. I just think too many people think everyone's world class, but that's just me. This guy did win a major trophy. He won the Premier League with Man United. So he won major trophies. He played for the biggest club, one of the biggest clubs in world football, and I thought was a phenomenal footballer, Kuvva.
Yeah, absolutely. Would have happily taken him at Spurs, even though he's certainly won a few things, didn't he?
Hang on. He played for AC Milan, who were the biggest team in the world at that time, weren't they? Hullet, Rijkaard, Van Basten, Baresi, Maldini. Are you kidding me? Anyway, let's move on. So that was Heung-min Son. Let's see if he makes our 10 a little bit later on. I will pick Eriksen, Christian Eriksen, Kuvva. Why are you shaking your head?
Yeah, no, so yes. How is there any doubt? He's in. Move on.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Kuvva. Sorry, just quickly, I just want to say this is easy to say, Paulio, but you've got to remember that Haaland has only just joined City. Haaland was breaking records at Dortmund, who aren't the best team in Europe, and he was breaking records before that at was it Salzburg? Was he at Salzburg or
was he at Salzburg before that? I can't
Sorry,
remember.
Where was he before Dortmund? Everyone, sorry, it's gone off my head. This guy's been doing it for Norway for years. He's done it for Dortmund and in the Champions League. You know the whole he plays for City thing. He's played for City for 17 games. Yeah, he's got over 200 goals in his career. So let's.
I mean, it was at Mulder for a while, but I can't remember if he went somewhere after that. Was he on loan at Salzburg or something? No, he moved there permanently. Of course he would.
Did he? Let's have a look. Okay, let's have a look at this is just league, right? This is just league with Erling Haaland. I could get his overall stats up. I'll tell you what, let me get his overall stats up. Erling Haaland. Here we go. Erling Haaland's stats as a footballer. Okay, bear in mind he's 22. It's ridiculous. Erling Haaland is 22, right? And sorry, his career total without Norway is 182 goals, right? With Norway, his career total is 203 goals, right? This man has got 21 international goals in 23 games. He's got 182 league goals in 222 league games. He got 86 in 89 for Dortmund, 29 in 27 for Salzburg, 20 in 50 for Mulder, and he's got 27 in 22 for Man City. I just don't know how there can be any doubt about this boy. I really feel like we're clutching at this stage. Danny, I'll put the link in the chat. No one else join, please. Just Danny. Kuvva, last thing on Haaland. I mean, again, this for me is where I think it gets a little bit biased, right? For me, listen, I love Harry Kane, but I can immediately look at Haaland and go, he's a different animal. He's a 20. He's a kid. He's a kid. I could be his dad. He's
still,
a kid.
This is really covering the Eriksen debate at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry. Christian Eriksen. Back to Christian Eriksen. This is what we do with football. Right? We talk football.
Yeah, true.
Christian Eriksen for me. I'm spoiler alert. Christian Eriksen is definitely in my top 10, even in my top 5, and I'm going to tell you why, Kuva. For me, as much as we've needed centre halves and wing backs, Christian Eriksen for me, through all of those brilliant years under Poch, was the creative force in all of it. And for me, it's no surprise that since Christian Eriksen has left this football club, our creativity has gone like that. This is a guy that not only was he creative, his work rate was second to none. He used to cover more ground than anybody else, right? I just think he had everything. He had vision, he had goals, he had set pieces. For me, one of the best players I've seen at Tottenham Hotspur in the last 40 years, let alone the last 20. I think he's a magnificent footballer, showing it again at Man United at the moment. And I think he was a phenomenal signing at about, was it 11, 14 million, something like that?
Yeah, I think it was 11, wasn't it? Yeah.
Phenomenal footballer. So underrated.
Yeah. For me, when he joined in, we saw how talented he was. I'll just remember thinking to myself, forget all the other names, forget how well Harry Kane's doing. This is the player you build your team around. This is the one capable of genuinely lifting us to winning things. Just his touch, his vision, his understanding of the game. Awesome. He could go missing in a few big games, but it's not like the rest of our squad wasn't happening to. Just a sublime footballer. He is what I love about the game. It's the passing movement, the finding space for yourself, intelligence to him. That's what really, for me, sets the top, the very highest of the game aside from the others. It's that footballing intelligence. He just know when he's doing something right, and he's always seems to make that extra bit of space for himself. Picks out the pass you never saw coming. Mm-hmm. What a player! We miss him so much.
I truly believe that any team that's going to achieve anything, you've got to have that chief orchestrator. I've seen someone mention about Odegaard. Now, whilst I don't think he's at that level yet, we've got to remember some of these players we're mentioning are very young, right? We've got to remember Odegaard is still only 22, 23, and has got this tag on him because he joined Real Madrid when he was 16. A player like that, though, Kuva, for me, I'm not putting him in Eriksen's bracket yet, is fundamental. A bloke that when everyone else is going, right, I don't know what to do here, you ping it into that guy, and he can go right, he can go left, he can play it through the channels, he can slip the ball in behind, he can have a pop at goal, cool, calm, measured. We're seeing it now. Eriksen has now dropped deeper as he's got older and is playing the same way from centre mid alongside Casemiro. For me, you players like that come around very rarely. And that's why I know people have a go at me. I'll just say this right now. People have a go at me. I've had this debate with people when people ask me, who's better, Eriksen or Son for Spurs? I'll pick Christian Eriksen all day long. Yeah. You can find wide players that will score goals. It is more difficult to find that player who plays in that number 10 role that can do what he did.
People forget that in that season where we're challenging Leicester for the league title, Sonny spent a lot of that season on the bench because we'd have Eriksen playing wide left in a lot of games.
Absolutely. I suppose it all depends on what your individual faults are on a footballer, right? And individual players. I'm looking at Christian Eriksen, right? In total for Tottenham Hotspur, right? His, for a midfielder, he always got in and around the 8 to 10 goal mark, right? Always. If we're looking at all competitions, he got 10 goals, 12 goals, 8 goals, 12 goals, 14 goals, 10 goals, right? Now, if we go on to that as well and look at this is the main thing for me, Kuva. If we look at his assists, and this is what sets him apart for me for other players, right? If we look at Tottenham Hotspur, listen to these assists, right? I'm not going to count his first season, right? Because he only played 19 times. For his full seasons, he got 20 goal contributions in his first season, 8 goals and 12 assists. 20 goal contributions in his second, 10 goals, 10 assists. 23 goal contributions in 2017, 15 assists and 8 goals. 21 goal contributions in 2016, which was 14 goals, 14 assists, 6 goals. The last season was 13 in all competitions, and the season before that was 15 in 25. Just phenomenal talent. And this, I keep seeing this, sorry, Kuvva, I'll come to you. When we're saying Savva, he went missing in the big games, can't we say that of everyone in the last 22 years at Spurs? Can't we can't label that at him? Can't we label that at Modric, Dembele, Kane, Son? You name all the top players. Can't that be labelled at all of them? By missing, what do we mean? How much did he? Could you sit here and tell me right now in those big games how many chances did he create, and people didn't finish off? Really difficult to do, wouldn't it? What do you make of him? What do you make of him to round it off?
Just it make any team tick. It's it's that. I mean, people say missing in big games. I agree. Yeah, he did at times. Yeah, no doubt about it. But he could go along to a Real Madrid and a Barcelona, sit in the number 10 slot, and do a great job for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great player.
We'll move on from Eriksen. By the way, this comment here, very difficult. Different players. They played in very different positions. It's only now that Eriksen's dropped deep. Modric played his whole career deep. Modric wasn't an assist guy, was he? Modric was a make the game tick from
the assist to the assist. Yeah,
right.
That's what they used to say.
So, again, difficult. Listen, we'll talk about him in a minute, but Modric was different gravy. But Eriksen, this comment sums it up. Eriksen was our glue. Said it since then. I've said it since then. I've said it before then. Without Eriksen, there's no creativity. And I watch Spurs now, and all I cry out for is an Eriksen. I said it in the summer. Bring him back. Kuvva, would you like to pick the next one?
Well, since we were let's save some of the big names for the towards the end. Let's go for Michael Dawson.
Michael Dawson. And by the way, 140 of you in the chat and 56 likes. Come on, guys. Doesn't take a lot to click a button, does it? Come on. Philo, you've not listened to a thing I've said, as always. I absolutely, Modric is a world-class player, but I don't know how you have the debate between two players that played in different positions. Could Modric have done what Eriksen did in that playmaker position? Probably, but he never played there, did he? So,
I don't mind saying it. Modric is better than Eriksen by a long way.
Yeah, he is, but that's like me saying Gareth Bale's better than Modric. I'm not saying he is. I'm saying how are you comparing two players who play in a different position?
No, I mean I think Modric could play the role Eriksen did and be
never
better.
Did.
I'll just I'll just see him doing it. That's all.
Yeah, I agree with you. But listen, I feel like if we're going to compare players, surely they've got to play in the same position. I can't.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fairer too. That's true. Yeah.
I agree with you though. Modric is a superior player to most I've seen in the last 10 years in the world. Yeah. But Michael Dawson at a time when we needed some leadership at the back, and we'd been struggling with the likes of Ledley King's injury proneness, and some of our previous big names had gone in the position. Michael Dawson came in relatively cheap from Forest with Andy Reid at the time, if I remember rightly. Now, he wasn't the most gifted technically sort of player. He wasn't fast. He wasn't a flashy player. But he was just a good old-fashioned centre-half who would put his body on the line for the team at all times. He was holding us together at the back, despite perhaps having a more limited ability than players in similar position. But he gave us everything: heart, desire, passion for the team, leadership. He properly wore that armband, and he deserved it.
I really rate that. You've got to have somebody like that in the team to get you through the trenches when you need it. Was he the most brilliant player we've ever had? No. Was he really important for us at that point? Hell yeah. We had real trouble. So it needed the likes of Jan and Toby to come along before we stopped worrying about it. The only reason that let him down is he was let himself down would be the lack of pace, really. Pochettino wants to play the high line. That's not a Dawson role. He needs to be sort of last line of defence, blood and thunder, put your livelihood on the line with last ditch tackles and sticking your head in where it hurts.
Yeah.
You need those players sometimes, and I've got almost unlimited respect for the man. I think he gave you everything. That's all you can ask with some people. John Terry type of player. John Terry obviously being the pinnacle of that kind.
Yeah.
But Michael Dawson's in the same mould. What a player. And loved by the fans.
Absolutely. Sorry, I just had a work email there. Absolutely. I think when you look at ability, would I say he was one of the best signings we've ever made? No. But when I look at the longevity that he gave us as well, the number of games he played for us, just a solid defender you could rely on. And I tell you what, Kuvva, how much would you love Michael Dawson now?
Playing the way we do at the moment, it'd be fantastic. Compare him to Eric Dyer. Well, you don't. Michael Dawson plays.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 5 out of 10 for Michael Dawson. I mean, that's so disrespectful to a player that was. I mean, come on.
I think to be fair, it would depend on the system. He would have struggled like hell playing the high line.
Oh, of course, but he wasn't a 5 out of 10 centre back, was he? Let's be really honest. This is really, really hard. That's harsh. You know, yeah. At the same time, yeah, Dawson is 20 times the player Eric Dyer is. Listen, I don't think he'll probably make my top 10, but he definitely makes my top 20 because he came in at a time and through all that era when King had injury after injury after injury, you could depend on Michael Dawson being one of the two at the back. So Michael Dawson. Okay. Tell us what you think about Michael Dawson in the chat. Let's go on to the next one. I'm going to talk about. I'm going to throw a wild card. Now, it shouldn't really be a wild card, and I think for those that remember, we remember, right? And I think you know what I'm going to talk about by this. I've put in my top 20 Wilson Palacios, and the reason I put Wilson Palacios in there is during that time. Big up, Danny.
Big up.
During that time. In the last 22 years, we've probably bought better players than Wilson Palacios, i.e. technically a Scott Parker, for example, i.e. a Bentancur, for example. But for me, I'm going to put Wilson Palacios into the chat for the top 20 because when he joined us, the impact he had on a team that were bottom of the table, Redknapp brought him in, chucked Modric into centre mid, realised he needed a midfield destroyer to protect Modric, and brought in Palacios, stuck Bale to left wing, and we just flew. We flew from there, and I thought Wilson Palacios done a wonderful, wonderful defensive midfielder job at Spurs. I thought for a couple of years he was brilliant for Spurs. Yeah. What do you reckon?
I agree with that. I love Palacios when he came. Like you said, Savva, he was the epitome of a midfield destroyer. Like he was like a pit bull, wasn't he? He was really aggressive. People didn't like going into a challenge with Palacios. And he was technically not too bad either. He wasn't like a bad player technically. It wasn't a goal scorer, but technically he could pass a ball. He kept it moving. He was a good player for us, and he did his job that he was brought in to do. And yeah, like you said, Sav, it was a couple of years, and it wasn't like a longevity thing with him. But while he was there, when he was in his form, when he was at his peak, he was a very good player for us. And yeah, he helped us kind of get to that next little bit of push for us, what we needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Kuvva, I mean, Palacios.
Yeah, there's another one of those players gave you everything he had every game.
Yeah.
I remember that story being told about when after what the terrible incident with his brother, and it being given time off by the club, compassionate leave, and instead of going, he sat there in the foyer, I believe it was, and he just waited until the manager comes out at the time and just going, what are you doing here, basically? And he just says, well, I don't want to let the team down. He was reporting for duty in crisis times with his family. It's just utterly committed to his role at the club. Gave you everything, fearless, worked his socks off. Full respect for him. Are there better players in the world? Of course there are.
Yeah.
Are there players that give you more commitment than him? No. He's up there. You can only match it. You can't better it.
You can only better it with ability. Like that was
Yeah.
that's the only and it wasn't to say he was a bad player. Like I saw someone in the comments who was just saying Wanyama and Dembele were better. Well, of course they were better. I mean, Wanyama was unbelievable. He was so underrated in my opinion, and it's a shame that once again Daniel Levy didn't buy him when Poch wanted him 2 years before. So we would have had a Wanyama more in his peak, and we could have had him for longer. But yeah, Palacios, he was a great player for at the time, and it was cheap. He wasn't expensive, was he either?
The key thing for me here as well is what we're taking into account, and we said this at the beginning of the show. It's not just about sometimes who's the better player. It was look at the impact they had on the club, and I think for maybe some of the fans, some of the younger fans, we're going back 15 years to when Redknapp took over. Right, we're going back to 2008 when he bought in Palacios. And it's not just, I'm not sitting here going, oh, Palacios, one of the greatest players ever played for the club. But we needed it at the time. And he came in, he steadied that ship.
Yeah.
He really steadied that ship. And for me, I just think the output was brilliant from him. And he created a really good blend with Modric for a couple of years. I thought it was really good to watch. So I think there's always got to be variables, right? So, yeah, Wanyama was a great player, but I haven't put Wanyama in my 20 because I thought Wanyama walked into kind of a really, really, really good team that were playing great football. I don't think you could say that of Palacios, who joined a team 20th in the table. Anything else on Palacios before we move on?
Not really. I think
covered it, really.
Yeah. You covered it. I think he was just... like you said, he elevated kind of our midfield at the time, like to kind of allow them to. It's kind of like what I'm not saying like what Basuma does now, because he's shown glimpses of what he can do when he has come on from the bench, where it allows Bentancur and Højbjerg to kind of move forward and kind of be more attacking. It kind of allowed Modric to play and Bale to play their games more, and I think that's why he was good in that element, because he allowed them to play more of their game and rely and not relied on doing as much defensive work as they were doing before, and that's what he was really good at.
Perfect. Kuvva, you've got the list of 20 that we're talking about. Sorry, Danny, I'm not ignoring you on this, but
no, go for it.
List of 20. Next one, Kuvva.
No, let's make Danny choose, and if he picks one we've already done, then we'll banish him. No, go on. I'll do the next one then.
I've got one. Pascal Chimbonda. Come on, guys.
Funnily enough, he didn't quite make the 20. Oh, Pascal. I'll tell you what I would give for Pascal Chimbonda at right back now.
I'll be happy with Esso Akoto at the club as well.
So would I.
Oh, how we laugh.
All right, next one. Let's do Dele Alli.
Dele Alli. Wow. This is going to be a fun one, isn't it? Dele Alli. Kuvva, kick us off. Dele Alli, the retired footballer at the age of 25. What's
the YouTuber? You mean? No, TikTok or whatever the hell it is he does.
To me.
Yeah, let's face it. Right. I'll start off by saying I've never been a big Dele Alli fan. I've always found him to be the sort of the luxury player that when it's not going well, he's not really the player to call on. When it is going well, he looks great. He can disappear at times, and when he's not scoring, I'm not sure what he's doing in a lot of games. Having said that, he did score a lot of goals for us, and they were important goals. And he did have some really memorable moments. When he was playing at his peak, he was really good. So I can't ignore that he had been a good signing for us. The drawback with Dele Alli is always going to be you can't view up his entire career with us just on those first few years when he was great. He also had a lot of years where he was absolutely terrible. And if you put the two together, was it great? It's kind of an average overall. But I suppose for the price, what was he, 5 million from Milton Keynes, MK Dons?
Yeah.
That's value for money, isn't it? It's value for money. If we'd got rid of him when he first went on the decline, I don't think we'd be talking about him in any bad way whatsoever. I think he lingered too much. Really, it was like the fart in a packed lift.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, Danny, always going to be contentious, Dele Alli, because there's two ways of looking at it. There's the way of looking at it, the romantic side of it, right?
Yeah.
The kind of, oh my God, the 5 million, look what he came and did, versus the last 3 years of absolute dross and now what he is. But for Tottenham Hotspur, I would say it was very 50-50. What do you make of him?
Yeah, I think Dele Alli is probably one of those players that it's just you kind of just want to grab him, yeah, and you want to fucking shake him, say, wake the fuck up. What the fuck have you done with yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, I'll be honest, like with Dele Alli, I understand what Kuvva was saying, and to a point, I agree with him, because he was a bit of a luxury player, because let's be honest, he didn't really have like a kind of specific role what he did, but it's just what he did was so impactful because of the players around him, the Ericssons, the Dembeles, the Wanyamas, the Kanes, the Sons. And I think it allowed him to kind of have this like free role in the team where he could like run late into the box, be the second striker, get in the box for these tap-ins and stuff. And he scored a few long ranges and some outrageous goals as well. And I think he was just kind of just a bit at the time, he was a bit of a mean streak player where people used to hate him in stadiums because he was this like little, it was like a little shit, wasn't he? It was basically like a little shit, right?
He was.
And people didn't like that. And I think the problem with Dele Alli is why it's so frustrating about him is because he came from League One, came to the Premier League. He became one of the best young European talents in Europe, right? One of the best English talents as well. He had the whole world at his feet, right? He was the stuff that he was doing at his age was ridiculous. Like he was so clinical as well. Like his head was screwed on at the time. Like he was focused on his football. And I think what happened with him, he's a case of he had too much too soon, too young. And I think with him that he had really bad people. In my opinion, I think he had bad advice around him, and he let the kind of other aspects of the lifestyle kind of overtake where the focus should have lied with, which was the football. And I think that he liked that. I think he liked having that fame, that kind of the being the star boy or the poster boy. He liked the sort of benefits you get from being a footballer more than the actual football. When he started getting so much money from Spurs, like for me, I think it changed when he got that next contract, when he got over 100 grand. And when he got that money, it was like, I don't need to work hard now. And I do think partly the problem with Dele Alli and why his rise and fall was so like it just dropped off a cliff like more than any other player I've ever seen was because I do think partly is that Tottenham didn't supply Pochettino with a player that could rival or challenge Dele Alli, because what happened from what I saw when he was playing at the levels that he was playing at, he never had anyone to compete with. So when he was playing bad, Pochettino had no other player, and in Dele Alli's head, he became complacent. He's like, well, I'm not gonna get my place taken away by Harry Winks, so I can just keep playing. And I think he kind of dropped his own kind of standards of himself because he was getting the money and he didn't really care too much. And I think he fell out of love of football. And I think that's why he can't even get into the Besiktas team right now. And he's getting subbed before half time at Besiktas. And his manager says he doesn't train well. And it's the same thing we've seen. And I think the biggest thing, Sav, as well, is that unfortunately with him, we saw more bad of Dele Alli than we did good. Like he was worse for more years than he was good, and that's the sad thing.
I think for me, there's different ways of looking at it, right? I think with Dele Alli, maybe not to the level of Dele Alli because he had such good numbers in that really good team. But we see this all the time. And this is why, the conversation's been having the last few days, Kuvva, about, oh my God, Brian Hill, Papa Sarr, and they're all bloody brilliant and generational. And the next the next Yaya Toure. If Dele Alli doesn't tell anybody about keeping your feet on the ground, nothing will. Because there's been so many players over the years, especially in England, they burst onto the scene and every English fan goes, the next Joe Cole, sorry, the next Gaza, the next this, the next Payne.
It's the media, isn't it, Sav?
Right. And that's the problem. But the fans buy into it, right?
Yep.
When I look at Dele Alli, was he the greatest footballer? No. But he had that lovely knack of ghosting in, scoring goals, popping up in pockets of space, and he was perfect for the formation he was in.
His link-up play as well was brilliant.
But that was between 18 and 20. The problem is, when you get to that age and you're now no longer a kid, you're now no longer the unknown entity.
Yeah.
How do you, as a footballer, mould and adapt your game? Yeah. Right? We've seen it. Jack Rodwell was going to be the biggest thing ever. Right? We saw it with Adam Johnson. Shouldn't say that too long. Was going to be the next thing ever. Stuart Downing, Sean Wright Phillips. All of these players that were going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
And they all brilliant and then peter away. And the problem was, what we realised is when Poch's system no longer worked and when it was coming to the end of Poch and the beginning of other managers, Dele Alli wasn't a good footballer. Like in midfield, he couldn't get on the ball, get out his feet, spread play. He wasn't that good. And unfortunately for me, the biggest fall from grace I think I've ever seen in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think the bit about him losing his form and under Pochettino, for me, that's one of the biggest reasons Pochettino's term failed. Mm-hmm. He kept faith in Dele Alli when he should have been dropping him. Mm-hmm. It's a shame. It's a shame. You can't say it's exactly down to that alone, but I think that's a massive factor.
It's got to be him, Kuvva. Listen, we can blame managers, tactics, stuff. At the end of the day, it's on him. He had a chance. He went to Everton, a team with not a good squad. He had a chance. Go in there, train hard. Frank Lampard would have put his arm around him and gone, come on, look, this is your chance now. Frank Lampard got rid of him in how long? 4 months? Like, what's the, just quickly before we move on to the next player, Adrian Cheer, thank you. Big up. Thank you for the super chat that said, unpopular opinion, Dele unlocked and propelled Son. Difficult one to talk about because Son, for me, has kind of been consistent the whole way through with
I'm not sure about that. I think, I don't know if Dele unlocked Son. I think, in my opinion, I think it's the players around Dele that unlocked Dele. I think when you have someone like Wanyama and Dembele sitting behind you, and then you've got Eriksen, who is the best creator in the league,
right?
Before kind of like only recently it was De Bruyne that took over Eriksen. That's because Eriksen went out of the Premier League for a few years, and I think before that it was Eriksen. So when you've got these type of players, and then you've got Harry Kane, who's one of the best goal scorers in English football, right? It's a lot easier to do your job because you can kind of just like we said, you can have your free role and kind of allow him to do what he did. And I think also Dele Alli's fall was when he kind of stopped adapting himself. Like you said, Sav, he stopped adapting himself to kind of improve himself and think like Harry Kane. He always thinks of ways to improve himself. Harry Kane's got a bit older. He's not as fast as he used to be. He kind of now drops back and is now that creator.
Mold, adapt, evolve.
Yeah, Son's kind of become more of a finisher in the last few years than he was before. He was more of a winger before, like an old school winger. Now he's more of a kind of inside forward type, kind of striker even at times. So I think and Dele Alli never changed his game. Like if anything, the thing you see with Dele Alli the most is that he just stopped loving football, and it's clear to see Because if he still had that passion, the same passion he had for football as he has for his outside of football antics, then he would probably still be playing for Tottenham.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Let's move on from Dele Alli. Look, it is what it is. It's so unfortunate. You know, at this age as well. It's not even like he's got to 30 and it's petered out. It
Sad,
petered out
isn't it?
by 23, 24. It's such a shame.
There was something Danny said that reminded me of a conversation I had with a couple of my hosts on Facebook channel during that period. We were talking about all these contracts being signed at the same sort of era. We had this one summer when Pochettino was always pictured with the next player along in the squad has just renewed their contract. It was up to like 100 grand or whatever. And we were talking to each other and said, you know what? I think this is going to ruin them. I think this is going to be where they lose their hunger and just start coasting it, because 100 grand a week on a player that young, who's clearly got an interest in off-field activities, is going to go and sure enough decline.
Yeah. But I mean, the last thing for me on Dele Alli is he was in that era, like we touched on earlier, Kuvva, where when we were screaming out for players, people would suggest players and fans would go, well, why would you sign them? You've got Dele Alli. Why would you sign them? You've got Walker. The fans kind of didn't want anyone that would rival their favourite 11 players. I'm not saying that's why the club didn't buy them, but we kind of got, some of us got what we asked for in that respect, right? We didn't want players to compete. Sure. And then, I'll go with the
or alternatively, Dele Alli just needs to play in a different position or different role. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to let go and say he is not performing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to bring in someone who's.
Before you do, Sav, can you just put up that comment by Greco Christos at 250?
Yeah, go for
it. So he was saying he's not that type of footballer. But the thing is, if you want to become an elite level footballer, then you adapt your game. Because what I also saw with Dele Alli is that, like you were saying, Sav, just before, that with Dele Alli, like when he was an unknown, people didn't know his game. After a couple of years, people kind of knew what his game was. So it was harder for him. And the problem, what he did is he didn't find ways himself to adapt, to try and do different things. He just tried to do the same things. And I think that because he didn't think about how he could adapt, and it's because, in my opinion, he lost his love of the game. He lost his love of football. Because if he did still love the game and he had that kind of drive that, say, let's just say at the moment, right, when you look at Kulusevski, and I always use Kulusevski as an example, because when you hear Kulusevski speak, all he talks about is wanting to be the best. He wants to win. He wants to improve himself day in, day out. Every day he wants to look for a way to get better. Harry Kane, he came out with this interview recently, and after that penalty miss, he said it's now made him want to drive on even more to go and win stuff. That's an elite mentality. That's a mentality that a player that we want should have, right? Someone who wants to be better every day, no matter what. Dele Alli never once came out and said, "I want to be the best midfielder on the planet. I want to be." He could have found a way to be a second striker. He could have adapted his game, maybe, and obviously not take his aggression out of the game. And I think that was another thing that happened with Dele Alli. But I just think it all kind of happened all at once, where he just got all this money, all this fame, all these sponsorships by Adidas. He had a massive Adidas sponsorship contract, right? He was the face of Adidas for a while, right? And he had all these kind of riches and stuff. And I think once he had that, I mean, look, he turned up to Everton, right, in a Rolls Royce. Was it Rolls Royce Phantom on his first day of training? Well, what does that tell you about a player? What does that actually tell you? He doesn't give a shit about anything. He just wants to look good. He He likes the attention. And I know someone who's a photographer for Dele Alli, right? And I can't remember if it was when he was at Everton, when it was at training. And the guy was just following me around, taking photos just of Dele Alli all day, because all he cared about was how he looked and how he's perceived, right? But really, if he actually thought about it and used his brain, if he actually started thinking about football, then he actually might have that attention he craves so much, because he'd actually be doing his job to a level where every fan would be loving him more, because he's using his God-given talent to do what he does best.
Absolutely, Danny. Sorry, this has got to be the comment of the day. And listen,
Brilliant. Yeah, exactly that. Exactly
I'm
that.
sure when Dele Alli goes to bed at night, this is the problem for me. Last thing. I think Dele Alli right now will be. I think he's in that mindset where he'll be going to bed thinking it don't matter. I've got loads of money. I've got loads of girls. I've got cars. I've got this, that, the other. I think when he gets to 35, 40, he will look back and think, what should have been? This should have been a player. We're looking at over 100, 120 England caps in his career for how young he started playing for England. He should have played in the last 2 tournaments if he had continued doing what he did when he was younger. He's now gone from Tottenham. Everyone thought he was going to go from Tottenham to Madrid, Tottenham to City. He's gone from Tottenham to Everton, who are in a relegation battle, to the Turkish league, to being booed off. That's a fall from grace. Let's move on, guys. I want to talk about this player. This player, one of the greatest technical footballers I've ever seen at White Hart Lane.
I know this is straight away.
Sublime first touch, control, technique, skill, passing, goals.
Let me guess. Played up front.
What's his name, Kuvva?
Oh, come on.
Does it begin with a B?
It does. It's Andy Booth. It's
That's
Andy
the
Booth.
one.
I thought you were going to say Rebrov for a second.
No.
God.
Dimitar Berbatov.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, Kuvva, was just something else. I feel it's ironic that I feel it's such a lazy accusation people make of him being lazy, because he was just up there.
Yeah.
He didn't have to run around. He
Sav,
was get it to me.
Yeah.
I will do he was sublime.
He graced the football pitch with elegance. That's how I saw Berbatov.
See, again when you say Berbatov was lazy, but Pyrex
wasn't lazy.
What was his job on a football pitch? Was it to tear? This is the problem now. What we've got into this thing where everything is, if you do not press for 100% of the game, you are lazy. Back then, Berbatov played in a 4-4-2. Yeah. Berbatov wasn't the lone striker. It was 4-4-2. His job, fire it into him. He will hold that ball up for 90 minutes if he needs to.
Well,
right, so
just to show you how good he was, he gave Robbie Keane the best ever goal-scoring season return that Robbie Keane ever had was when he played with Berbatov. Them two players in one season scored over 50 goals between them, and then Spurs go and do the best thing ever and sell both of them in the same window. Bring in Fraser Campbell.
Yeah, big up Levy.
Yeah, big up Levy. So look, I don't like it when people say he was lazy. Because he didn't press or didn't run around, but what he did was so much more than that for the team in terms of his brilliance and elegance. What I loved about Berbatov so much is that he made football fun to watch because of how brilliant he was. He made it look simple. He made the hard things look so simple. His passing, his control, his technique, his dribbling ability, the way he could just beat a player. Like, he wasn't beating a player with pace, he's just beating a player with his brain. And that's why he was so good. I mean, he could volley a ball from 30 yards and make it look like it was effortless. I mean, and he did it multiple times as well for Spurs. He was fucking phenomenal. He was one of my favorite ever Spurs players to watch in a Spurs shirt. And what was even better was when he went to United, he went up even more another level because he was playing with better players. He was phenomenal. Phenomenal player.
For me, Kuvva, right? For me, the attacking version for me of Michael Carrick came to Spurs, 2 million. Sorry, not 2 million. Came to Spurs 2 years. United went, we'll have a bit of that. Took him there, won trophies. He was Premier League top goal scorer. I remember seeing Rooney talking about how much he loved playing with Dimitar Berbatov, because he said there isn't anything he couldn't do with a football. Yeah. What was your memories of him, Kuvva?
I wouldn't say Michael Carrick but up front. I'd say Glenn Hoddle but up front.
Oh,
his touch was absolutely sublime. He remains the best forward I've ever seen in a Spurs shirt. I think I'd change my mind if I was old enough to have seen Jimmy Greaves. But
I agree with that, Kuvva.
And he won us a trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He scored the penalty in the final.
He won us a trophy, Kuvva.
Play as a lone striker, playing a 2. It didn't matter anything. Play him out wide. He was utterly brilliant on whatever he did. I've seen nothing like it. That control is just unreal.
It's the brain he had, wasn't it? It was just
Yeah.
he was like levels above everyone on a football pitch. Like even when he was in that Man United team, you could see that his brain was better than the majority of those players. Like all of the players in that Man United team, like he was just like up here. He was just, you couldn't compete with it.
He was the sort of one who could pick up the ball just inside the box, chip the goalkeeper. But as the ball's in the air, he could turn around and just yawn because he knew it's already done.
And he pulled out a cigarette, started smoking, then scored the goal.
Well, you know, I was watching the other day, you know, on Sky Sports, they have Gary Neville's soccer box where he invites players on and they look back throughout the years at their games and stuff. And they showed some of Berbatov's goals, and Berbatov's just sitting there like he was as a player. He's just sitting there. Gary Neville's waxing lyrical, and Berbatov's going, you know, like just nonchalant, not arrogance, just this kind of nonchalant. That's the way I played. I reckon for strikers that play with him, he would have been an absolute dream because you knew Danny, when the ball went into him, you knew it wasn't bouncing off him. You knew he's killing that. And even that clip of him in the was it for Man United at Charlton or Tottenham against Charlton, where he showed that burst of pace and he flicked it round his man, ran round him, and then just cut. He just passed it into the bottom corner
so elegantly. It's like he could never do anything wrong. Like you never ever saw him like misplace things or misplace passes or miscontrol the ball. It was like he just made it look so easy, and it's how a professional footballer really should be, like be able to control a ball. But how many times you see professionals who train every day can't control a fucking ball?
Absolutely.
And it's a good comment. The next one, Sav, this one here, I agree with this. I completely agree with this. One of the players that I remember as well, were growing up, was someone like Bergkamp, who was very, very similar. And you could compare the two because they both won lots of trophies and they both had phenomenal first touch, like one of the best you've ever seen.
Yeah, just quickly, everybody, there are 162 of you in the chat. It's changing all the time, but please smash the likes. Only 76 likes. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe. We're flying up, and I'm trying to get to 3,000. We're only 340 away now. It's been a very good month for me, and it's only the 6th. Subscribe to Tottenham on Tour for Danny Kiriakou and Brian and the boys, and subscribe to Bobby K and Kuvva on the Free Spurs Boy, Kuv and the Kang. Sod it. Subscribe to everyone. Subscribe to Henry Wright TV. Subscribe to Tottenham Away, Shelfside Spur. Too many to mention, but subscribe to them all. Will Stewart 365. Subscribe. We're all here, whether you agree with us or not, giving you Tottenham content. And it's free for you. Let's move on from Berbatov, and I'm just going to sneakily let you know he does make my top 10 if you hadn't guessed by how much I wax lyrical about him. Kuvva, there's 8 players left to go.
Cool, we're not getting through this very quick, are we?
No, sod it. What else are you doing on a Friday afternoon?
Going over to Paxton Road at 5 and doing player ratings.
It's only 3 o'clock. What are you
we've got 2 hours gone and we're hardly halfway through. Never mind.
Sorry, we're stopping the show, everyone. Kuvva's moaning. We're stopping the show.
I could leave and do that and come back, and you're still going to be 4 players to go.
That's my listen, Kuvva, I'm 40 now. The days of me going, it's Friday, I'm getting ready for a sesh.
Yeah.
Oh, those days are gone.
But those days are still there, mate. Those days are still there. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm doing dry January, Dan.
I love the comment from Brady Zenzel. The comment from Brady Zenzel said, from berating ENIC to singing the praises about top signings by Levy, what one win can do to people. I don't think it's to do with the win. So the win lifts your mood. But we're if anything, we should be we're really talking about when things were good for Spurs, and it's not now, isn't it? So we're looking at past players.
From my list, there's only 3 of the current squad who have made the 20, right? 3, and even 2 of them, even 2 of them. We've already done one, Hong-Min Son. The other 2 we'll talk about. Even then, I think it's way too early for them to be on there. But I thought I would because otherwise people would get upset. Brady Zenzel, we do love you. Thanks for your comment. Kuvva and I always do these trips down memory lane. If you haven't seen us do it before, we've done the managers. We've done the worst sign. Oh, we haven't done the worst signings yet. Next week, Kuvva.
Oh, come on. We've only got a few hours.
The 10 worst signings. That'll be brilliant.
Part 10.
Come on, Kuvva. We've got 8 to go. Give me a player.
Let's go. Oh, yeah. Let's go for a favourite then. Got to be Van der Vaart.
Oh, hang on.
You're gonna say
Favourite. I'll remind you of that at the end of this show. A favourite.
He is a favourite.
Not what you were saying to me off stream.
No. That's
No,
not.
I'm joking.
No,
I'm joking.
I'll do your trick here. Don't lie. Don't put words in my mouth.
I'm only joking. I'm joking, by the way. Kuvva didn't say that. Kuvva, start us off. I mean, Raphael van der Vaart, the luckiest signing of ENIC's era.
Yep.
Go.
Yep, cheap last moment signing. One of the things that Levy sort of thrown the dice on and got right. What a player. Again, another one with great control, great technical ability, an eye for a goal, an eye for a pass. He had everything. Another one that could appear lazy as well, even though it win you the game and then just look like he's not making an effort. It's because it's easy for him. And the connection with the fans was amazing as well. It was joyous to see him jump behind the goal and celebrate with the fans. It was absolutely fantastic. I love that connection when players get that with players. Yeah. Players get that with fans. I think other end of the pitch, it'll be somebody like a Paul Robinson. We always had that with Robbo, with the chants, Robbo, give us a wave and things like that. Van der Vaart was the other end of the pitch with the same thing. It was straight in. He was one of us. Totally believing in everything the bloke did. Goals in big games, goals out of the blue that turn matches round. I just think he's a joy to watch. It's one of these players you pay for admission to go and see. God, I'd love to have him in the side now.
Oh,
I mean, Danny. I mean, you weren't on the show when we were talking about Ericsson, but for me, this was obviously pre-Ericsson. Again, another one you put in the hole. You float about. I've got to stop saying. Right, you put in the hole. Yeah. You let him roam. You let him do what he needs to do. He plays his game. It doesn't need to stick to rigid tactics. He plays his game, and he just. Not many have done it since, or I don't know if anyone's done it since. Has come in, and the lift from the crowd was, boom. This is our new guy. This was a team that had Bale already in it. This was our new guy. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, Van der Vaart, like Kuvva was saying, he was one of those guys who, especially when it came to the big games, he was a big game player. And I think if I remember correctly, it was the last time we won at Anfield was when he was in that team, and I think he scored in that game as well. I can't, if I'm not mistaken. But
Anfield or the Emirates?
No, I know we won at Emirates with him, but I think didn't we win at Anfield as well?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, possibly. Going back 15 years, I've had a lot of alcohol.
It's a long time. I think we did. I'm not sure. I know we won 4-0 at home with Modric. That Modric won the goal, but Van der Vaart was just like Kuvva said. The connection with the fans. I haven't seen that since him. I haven't seen a player that had that type of connection. Like he was Spurs through and through. Like he was Spurs through and through. Like I know the fans used to chant Dele Alli song, but you never. It wasn't the same type of connection that the fans had with Van der Vaart. It was just raw passion. Like the guy absolutely loved playing for Spurs. He loved the Tottenham fan base. The fan base loved him. He gave everything in a Spurs shirt, and it was just such a shame that they cut his kind of tenure short because I think he could have done another year at least at that level at Spurs. And he even said it to this day that it was the biggest regret him leaving Spurs early, because I think we could have done with him another season, to be honest with you. And in that season where Bale became the number 11 after he left, I think if we had hit him that next season, I think we might have it might have just helped even more. But yeah, I think he was just a phenomenal player. Just a talent, man. What a player. It was a joy to watch. And I don't think we've signed anyone of that level since him.
I completely agree. We'll come to that in a second. Just quickly, Adrian Shear, thank you for another super chat. has said you guys should do a missed signings because we're too miser. I mean, it would be a very, very long show
that'd be way too
of
long.
bitching about ENIC and Levy. I mean, look, guys, I don't want to labour the point on Van der Vaart, but arguably the last world-class signing for me, I put him in the bracket below. I feel like there was just something across his career that was missing. But for me, the last top player we signed, the last player, from a Real Madrid who was like that level. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not counting Emerson Royal from Barcelona. Just a class act. He fit in with the style of play and the management at the time, didn't he, as well?
Yeah.
I don't know, would he have that same effect under a Conte? I don't know, but Redknapp was certainly the right manager for a Van der Vaart at that stage in his career. And I just wish we could sign anyone like that now. Just give us that bit of flair to watch,
That's exactly it. He was a flair player, wasn't he?
Yeah. Touch, control, movement, passion. Great player.
Yeah.
Great player. Anything else on Van der Vaart before we move on?
Sign him up again.
Yeah.
Sign him up.
I'll take him now from the shit that we've got.
Sign him up again. I'm gonna introduce a player now who's in this squad. He's in our current squad. And as I said, for both the players that are in this, we'll do both of them together, actually. Speed things along. I'm going to chuck in Kulu and Romero. Now, the reason I'm saying I'm on the fence with them isn't about their ability at all. It's that they've both been here. They've both been here a year, right? And I as of yet, I don't think that you can say they've done what other players on this list have done. But Romero is now a world-class winning centre-back. A World Cup winning centre-back.
No, you said it now. Clip it.
No. Don't lie. Don't say things you didn't say. I did say it. Look, he's a World Cup winning centre-back. Talk to me, boys, about Romero, because for me, I think he's got all the potential, which I think is the key word, to be one of their best signings if he stays for a few years and if we get someone alongside him that can actually defend. I don't know whether or not, I mean, he's definitely not making my top 10 in any way, shape or form, but how good a signing was Romero, Danny? I feel like he gets called world-class a bit too easily. I still think even the other night against Palace, I saw him. He's very, very rash. What do you make of him as a signing?
Yeah, I think, look, I agree that he's not a world-class. It's like the argument that people say, Saliba's a world-class player. No, he's not. They're both not world-class players. They're both very, very, very good footballers. They're top defenders, right? Because of what they've done. Romero was the Serie A Defender of the Year, and to get that kind of accolade, right? It is very difficult, especially how the Italian league likes to pride themselves on the best defenders, right? So to get that accolade, you got to be a good player. But he's not a world-class player yet for in terms of club football, right? Because he hasn't done anything special to make you kind of move to the next level in terms of achievements, right, on the pitch. Like, for example, when you're talking about a world-class centre-back, you're talking about players that will come into a team and elevates that whole team, that pushes everyone on to go and win something or go and do something.
Dijk?
Van Dijk, like what he did with Liverpool. He maybe not now in terms of his form because he's had that big ACL and it's completely messed his career up. But before that, he was a world-class centre-back, right? He won everything for Liverpool. He helped Liverpool achieve everything. Now, Romero, he's like you said, he's rash at times, right? But I think that's part of his game. And I think he does need to kind of mature still. He's still a young defender. He's still fairly young. He's like 23, 24 years old. So he's still very young. And defenders normally mature when they're in the sort of mid to late 20s. That's when they start really kind of performing to their top ability. And I think with him, I think it does get branded out that he's world class. And people say it because, in terms of for Tottenham's purpose, people say it because we don't have top defenders. He's the only top defender we have in that back line, right? Everyone else is a very average defender, right? Let's be real. So
Yeah.
that's why people like to put him on a pedestal and be like, oh, he's world class. No, he's not world class. Realistically, he's not. But he is a top defender. Just like Saliba is. Saliba's showing this season how important he is for Arsenal.
Yeah.
He's not world class yet. Maybe if they win a title, people might start looking at him at world class.
We're so desperate though, Danny, aren't we?
That's exactly it, Savva.
Football fans, as well as Spurs are desperate to it, but football fans, we're so desperate for a player to have one good season and we elevate to, oh my God, Ballon d'Ors, world class. And it's like, just, just kind of relax a little bit.
Well,
but I mean,
the holy goalie said it, but he's got potential to be world class.
Yeah.
He has the potential there, for sure. Sure.
I mean, Kuvva, Romero, as Danny said, it's part of his game. The rash part is part of his game. Kind of reminds me of when Rio Ferdinand, I'm not putting him in that bracket because I think Rio was a different level of footballer.
He's world class. He was world class.
He was.
Yeah.
The thing was, I think between the sort of ages of 18 and 20, everyone was talking about Rio Ferdinand.
Yeah.
And he got his move to Leeds. And there were a lot of mistakes in his game. I remember it really,
Yeah.
But between about 21 and 24, you saw him cut them out completely. Everything was controlled and measured, and it wasn't rash. And he read the game better than any English defender I've seen for a very long time. Do you think Romero needs to do that, or do you think that kind of rash part of his game is the South American that will always be in him?
I think if you take that rash part of the game, you've got half the player.
Right.
Yeah.
It is what his biggest strength is reading the game and making that sort of more of an interception than a tackle at times. Where the player hasn't had time to even turn or anything, look around. He's already been slammed into by Romero.
But could that hinder him, Kuvva? Could that be I know it's his game, but could that be the difference between him being there and there with the greats?
No, I think it's part of the reason that does put him there. It's
okay.
Right. I think you take that out, you've got an okay defender. He's not,
but he's got to temper it, right? He's got to. It's okay having that, but I see him every game. He's good for a bang, and you're like, you didn't need to do it. Do you know what I mean? He steps up.
He's got to temper it. Let's think.
It's got to be measured.
No, I think load him up. I think I load him up with a couple of pills, some raw meat, and let him go mental.
No,
that's what I would have said.
I just think he's a very good defender, but every now and then, I literally saw him do it the other day against Villa. He did it the other night, someone in Palace. He steps out into the midfield when you're thinking you don't need to go into that area. Stay where you are. And he tries to stamp out the danger, but he knows before we know he's going through the player. It's a foul. And I think top defenders don't do that. They don't, Kuvva. I didn't see Baresi's do it, Maldini's, Ferdinand's.
Yeah. No, he's totally different sort of player, though, isn't it?
He is. You just said about Maldini, Sav, right? One of the things I always remember Maldini used to say was that the why Maldini was such one of the best, if not the best centre back of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Why he was so good was because he used to say the key to defending, and Rio Ferdinand said it not long ago actually, is the positioning. It's the positioning. He used to position himself, and he used to read the game better than anyone. And he didn't have to go and make those rash tackles because he knew because he knew where he needed to be in the right moment. It was all about reading the game.
I know the quote. If you were
go for it, Kuvva.
Maldini, always remember this one. If I have to make a tackle, it means I've already made a mistake.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. That's the quote.
I mean, this is interesting. I know it's slightly away from Romero, but saying Terry was better than Rio, I think they were very different centre backs. But for me, this was the perfect partnership.
Yeah.
For they had between the two of them everything. What Terry lacked in grace and style, Rio had. What Rio lacked in that kind of winning everything in the air and throwing your body on the line, Terry had it. But between them, I mean, England are not creating these centre backs anymore, are we? There is no one in none of them. Let's be really honest. I like John Stones as a player, but none of them are this level. I'm pointing at the screen like you can see my hand, by the way. So I just realised you can't. I mean, look, I agree with you, Danny. For me, the best defenders I've seen, it's all about positioning. But I agree with this comment from Ben. Maybe,
Yes.
replace Chiellini with whoever you will. But I truly believe this as well. Get a guy next to him that is a talker, that is a right, go now, or don't go, hold your position. That, for me, could turn Romero into one of the best in the world.
I think so. I think he needs to have. I was just going to come on to that, Sav. You're right. He needs to have a lot more quality around him, because you can see with Romero, has got that. It is part of his like DNA, the Argentinian rashness, the aggression, and I think Kuva's right to an extent. If you take it out of his game, he's going to be a lot less effective. But you put a player like a Chiellini or like a Van Dijk, when he was in his prime, next to someone like Romero, I think he becomes, I think, maybe a world-class player.
See, for me, I'll disagree with some of this. I don't think you have a player alongside him that tells him not to do it. It's an instinctive thing he does. You can't chip in and preempt what he's going to do. He's going to do it. What you need is that defender alongside him who can anticipate when it's going to happen and be ready to cover him.
Like a Ricardo Carvalho at Chelsea, like that type of player, quick across the ground, good position.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in the modern day, right now, like someone like Saliba, like what he's doing for Arsenal now, I think he'd be perfect with Romero.
Right,
he'd be really good with Romero.
Last bit on Romero before we move on to Kulu. For me, having said all of what we just said, I can't look past, and I know fans will kill me, and you don't support Spurs, you're negative. I can't look past in the next 2 years.
Savvy, you're so negative, man.
I know. It's just who I am. I wasn't on that night out we had, though, was I, Danny? That was a bit of fun, wasn't it?
You bloody
very good fun,
fire.
I love it, Danny, but just off topic, I love it. I get loads of messages that go, "Oh, but you're fun at parties," and I say, "Oh, if you knew what a night out with Sam was like." Oh, anyway, I can't look past in 2 years' time seeing this guy in a Barca shirt, a Real Madrid shirt, because for me, all of these South Americans, they grow up with Barca and Real Madrid as the kind of pinnacle of where they want to be. With the world how it is, with not loads and loads of centre-backs, with him having just won a World Cup, I can truly see he will be on the radar of these clubs in the next 2 years, and I cannot see in any way, shape or form, guys, that is going to be turned down by Christian Romero. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It will show he's done well, but do you see where I'm coming from with that?
Yeah, for me, I think I've been saying it for a long time. I don't think that this club's going to ever match his ambitions, or what's going to happen is like all the top kind of South Americans or players that come to Spurs, eventually one of those clubs is going to want him. And I think if he keeps kind of progressing in the right way, I think in his first year, he obviously missed the first part of the season because he was injured under Nuno. But when Conte came in, he was a breath of fresh air. He was unbelievable. He was brilliant. This season, we've seen a lot more frailties in his game, I think. And I think he's been less concentrated. He's been carrying a bit of injury before the World Cup. And then even in the World Cup, when he was in it, he kind of started quite slow and he was making a mistake. And then he kind of grew into it with fitness and stuff. And I think if he just needs to focus more. And I think Conte says it as well. He needs to focus more. But I think if he does that, then eventually at some point, one of the big teams is going to pay for him, whether it's Real Madrid or Barcelona or someone else.
I'm just using them as an example, right?
Someone's going to buy him, right? Because let's face it, Levy's not going to go and get another two top centre backs to kind of elevate his game to the next level and show how good he can be.
No. I mean, Kuvva, last word on Romero. Look,
I'm just thinking on the night out being good.
I'll tell you what we got up to off stream. I
was just going to say quickly because Danny and I talk about this sort of thing, and I do with Hollywood Phil and a couple of others. Be surprised at the amount of people in the YouTube community whose idea of a good weekend would be £250,000 blown in Las Vegas and a 200-year prison sentence.
But just remember, you're not fun on a night out because you want Spurs to win trophies and ENIC out. Just remember
That's
that.
right.
You're not
That's
fun
right.
on a night out.
Jesus Christ.
Look, Kuvva, finish us off on. Hey.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
That costs extra.
Last word on Romero.
Yeah, he's got a lot to learn. I just think he's got. When we talk about having a high ceiling on the players, and we talked about this before, it seems really strange. How can you really work it out? With some players, you can see there's some real qualities to his game that sets him apart from the crowd. And I see that with Romero. I see that it's that anticipation, that aggression, and that will to just win that ball no matter what's standing in front of you. I think that gives him that potential. It gives him that higher ceiling. I do see it potentially a world-class player in there, but it depends how he develops. He's still young. They don't always make it, and it's no point getting too carried away at the moment. He's below that level at the moment for sure. Still the best we got though, as already said.
Absolutely. Let's move on then. So we've got 1, 2, 5 players left. Let's rattle through these. 1, 2, 3, 5 after Kulu. Let's just quickly do Kulu. I've put him in there purely for potential. I like Kulu. I think he's got an abundance of talent. I think he came in and set the place alight. But like anyone, you know me, guys, I'll keep my feet on the ground. I want to see what this kid can do over the next 2 to 3 years. Let's see him put the numbers on the table. Let's see him keep fit. Let's see him win those big games out of nothing. Let's see that. But I think on our hands, we've got a terrific player in the making there.
Yeah. I think with Kulusevski, he's the first player in a long time. I'd probably go as far as even saying Van der Vaart, where I felt, I'm not saying in terms of connection with the fans yet, but I think that it's starting there. I think what you can see of Kulu is someone who is a young kid who's got so much potential. For me, he's got world-class potential. He's not a world-class player. He's a very good young player. He's got it. And what I love about him is his kind of his ability. He's another one that's got a fantastic football brain. He's got a phenomenal football IQ. He can see he can see something happening before it happens. And that's what I love. And what I love most about him is his unpredictability. When he plays, he can go to the left of you, he can go to the right of you. And I love it. It kind of reminds me of a little bit of Iron Robben when Iron Robben was young, right? I'm not saying it with the raw pace, but when Kulu is up against a man, he can beat anyone. His acceleration from a standing point is so good. Like, he can stand up against someone and just go past them, right? Not like burst past them with raw pace and power, but his acceleration to go past someone, either side, left foot, right foot. He can cross on his left foot. I know he doesn't shoot. He can cross on his right foot as well. He doesn't really shoot often on it, but he's just got so much ability and potential, this guy. And his ability to beat a man and deliver a great ball into the box time and time again is something we haven't seen for a long time.
And he's the only one at our club. I mean, Perisic has got a good cross on him, but
he does.
The ability to beat a man and turn them inside out.
Fantastic. I pay my money to see him play, Sav. In my opinion.
That's what it's all about. Would you open the curtains if they were playing in your garden? Kulu, yeah. Emerson Royale, Højbjergs, unfortunately, players like that, I'm like, I could take or leave it. Just quickly, Kuvva, give us Kulu quickly.
It's the reason to watch. I'll get very little excitement out of this team nowadays. Last 4 years or so, I don't really cheer much when we score. It's like I'm happy for it, but it's lost sparkle. Kulusevski's changing that. He's a fantastic player. Danny summed it up. He's got it all up there. It's
he gets you off your seat, doesn't he?
He does. He's the only one that does it.
He is. Yeah,
I'll just fantastic footballer. More, please.
Okay, Robbie Keane. I'm just going to rattle through these last 5, because otherwise we'll be here all day. Robbie Keane, good player, very, very good player. 2 stints at the club like Defoe. A very unique player. Was a centre forward, but would drop in a lot, float out wide a lot. Fantastic skill, scored goals. I don't know anyone that didn't enjoy Robbie Keane being at Tottenham Hotspur. What do you make of him, lads?
I'm going to say cult hero.
Yeah.
For me.
So, Cup covered it. I don't think he's the greatest player we've had, but again, connection with the fans, enjoyed watching him play, flashes of brilliance, probably underperformed of the ability he did have.
I agree. What do you think, Savva, Robbie Keane?
Great player. Look, I think he's one of those, again, just sits in that bracket of players that are really, really, really good, but I'm not ever going to talk about them in that kind of world-class bracket.
No, never.
Lovely footballer, both feet, lovely goal celebration. Didn't quite work for him. He went to a couple of big clubs and it didn't quite work. He went to Inter Milan. He went to Liverpool. But in a Tottenham shirt, he played with people like Defoe and Berbatov and Bent and Pavlyuchenko and blah, blah, blah. And he always put in a shift, scored a lot of goals, just gave his all. And again, another player, I'd love that sort of player in the squad now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
want
want Richarlisons who run around like headless chickens and he's good for the fight. I want those players, clever, tricky, can make things happen with his feet. That's just me. But
he was a good finisher, wasn't he? Keane was a good finisher, and the fans loved him, and he loved the fans. And I think obviously he wanted to go to Liverpool for that move to try play Champions League football, and it didn't work out for him. And I think that kind of stunted his what he could have done at Tottenham. I'm not saying he's going to achieve more things at Tottenham, but I think that he could have had a better career in terms of scoring goals and making more records for Spurs. But look, like you said, he was never a world-class player, but he was just a good finisher, and he another one. At times, he was a joy to watch. Like people love watching Robbie Keane; they loved his passion.
Yeah, I mean, he got 122 goals for Spurs across 2 spells. So
yes, it's a good return.
Some good numbers there. Some good numbers. Where are we? Hang on, I've lost my channel. I can't see you all. Here we are. Sorry, I completely lost the page from it now. I was like, where is everyone? Let's move on then. We're down to the last 4. I'm going to go with this guy. For me, 1, 2, 3, 4. This guy for me has got to be in the top 10 signings for me. I'm not even just the 20. Forget what people are saying about him now. Hugo Lloris, for how much we paid for him, for the fact that he's been our goalkeeper now for 10 years, 11 years, whatever he's been. There's some mistakes creeping into his game now. There's been things chucked at him in the past. Is he good enough at commanding his box? But overall, throughout what we've seen and all these cup runs and the team that finished 2nd and 3rd and 4th, he's been an ever-present. He's been a great servant to the club. And I just feel for those reasons, he's got to be one of the best signings in the ENIC era, right? For longevity and consistency.
Yeah. Nothing to add for me.
Yeah.
Don't need to.
I'm kind of with that as well. I think what he's done for Spurs, I'm not saying like he's won trophies and stuff, but in terms of his loyalty, like he could have gone to, at some points in his career, he could have gone to any top club. He was one of the best keepers around. He's been one of the best keepers for a long time in the league. And we know he has his dips in form and he does make mistakes and he does make quite a few at times. But I don't think we would have got better than him for the price that we paid. And for the longevity, we're not needing to go and spend 50 million or 30 million to try and keep trying to get a player of that level, because we know what Spurs are like. It will take us like 100 million on over 10 different players to try and get anywhere near that level we've got with Lloris.
Danny, this is a guy that's played 439 games for Tottenham.
Yeah, mad.
And in that period, he's reached 2 World Cup finals with his country.
Yeah.
And there's only 1 season where he played less than 33 games.
Yeah, it's mad.
That's consistency. Listen, I know we need a new goalkeeper, but in the grand scheme of things, look, let's give credit where it's due.
Definitely.
Fair play to him. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Can I just ask you one thing? Do you think he'll go down as a Tottenham legend?
I think he's got to, right? I mean, it's difficult because there's the argument, right? Kuvva's face went straight away to I think what probably I was thinking. I don't know, right? There's the argument of, can you be a legend if you've not won anything at a club?
Yeah.
But if we're doing that, does that then mean if Harry Kane buggers off now, are we not saying Harry Kane's a legend even if he surpasses Jimmy Greaves' goal scoring record?
Yeah, but then Kane leaves his permanent mark though with that record, doesn't he? Hugo doesn't.
Sure, but
it's an argument.
It's an argument. Let's not have that today though, because we'll be here for another 3 hours. But good. Yeah, listen, that's an interesting. We'll have that debate next week, Kuvva. We like a debate.
Oh yeah, you can't get to 400 games for the club and not be a legend.
Yeah, you've got to be.
But you think about it. If he finishes the end of the season, he's surpassed the 450 mark.
Yeah.
If he plays next year, you're looking at nearly the 500 mark. It's ridiculous.
You're talking that's like that's ridiculous amount of appearances for the club.
I'm going to leave the big two, the obvious two, for the end. But this guy for me has got to be in there. Moussa Dembele. We talked about this ability on the ball with Berbatov. For me, Moussa Dembele's a different ability, but the ability to control the ball and keep possession of it in tight spaces whilst getting 2 or 3 men and whilst pushing them up
and then driving forward
was brilliant. And again, another player since his departure, we have not sorted that. I don't care what anyone says. I like Bentancur, but I'm not putting him in the same level.
No,
nothing has replaced Moussa Dembele, even 50% of it for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Moussa Dembele, I think Pochettino summed it up perfectly when he said, the quotes that he said, he wished he had Dembele when he was a youngster, when he was a teenager, because if someone like Pochettino had got a hold of him, and because obviously Pochettino was the one that kind of put him into that position as that holding kind of midfielder, if he had trained him from a younger age, I think we're looking at an even better player than he was. I think he was so key to everything we did. What he did with the ball, he wasn't this player who used to score like 10 goals a season, or it was an assist specialist. But what he did, I mean, I've never seen a player like him. Every single player who gets interviewed and says, who's the best player you've ever played with at Spurs, they always say Moussa Dembele, because the guy was just he was like a street footballer, but he took that kind of street football onto the pitch, and he played like he was a street footballer on the pitch. No one could get the ball off him. No one could get the ball off him. The way he could just drive, he could go past 2 or 3 or 4 players like it was just they're not even there. I mean, I remember when we were at that the Juve game, that game of the Champions League where he just absolutely made their midfield look like pieces of shit. It was just
fantastic.
I mean, and he did it to multiple teams, multiple big teams as well in big games. It's just a shame he had the injury record that he had, and that we didn't have him for many more years. But what a phenomenal player he was.
Kuvva, Dembele. We've had many central midfielders since Dembele. We've had Winks, we've had Sissoko, Lo Celso, Ndombele, Højbjerg, Skip, Bentancur, Basuma. None of them for me. I reckon if you added all of them up, I don't think they'd combine to what Moussa Dembele was as a midfielder, would they?
One of the few real Rolls Royce players we've had in my lifetime. The ability to hold the ball under pressure. He'd sit there, like I said earlier, sit there in front of Jan and Toby. You are making it basically, there's the plug in any team counter-attacking. You put Kyle Walker there to mop up anything that does go past them. It means you played the game in the opponent's half almost the entire game. Just phenomenal player. Could do everything. But I've always been so sort of disappointed in him at the same time, though, because he had a terrific shot and I never thought he scored enough goals.
Yeah. He had the ability, didn't he?
He did. He really did. It's just his role, wasn't it? It was just because he was sitting back there very defensive-minded. He was just a complete player.
But doesn't that also shows like his dedication to the cause of what Pochettino at the time
Yeah.
wanted him to be. Because if he was that forward player, because when he was younger, he was more of a forward player, more of an attacking midfielder. And yeah, he could have scored a lot more goals, but it just goes to show that he knew what his role was, and he knew that if he did his job the way he should be doing it, then the players like Ali and Kane and Son and Ericsson could go and do what they do and destroy teams because they were good enough to do it. And for me,
I'll just remember the time we played Liverpool quite soon after he arrived, and Liverpool had got away with scraped a draw or a win or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I just remember Dembele really impressed that day, and Liverpool are going for titles at this point. And I just remember their fans on social media going, "Damn, why didn't we sign Dembele?"
Yeah, it's just again, I've said it about the right back, the left back, the centre backs. Again, I watch what we've got now compared to Moussa Dembele, and I'm just like, oh. And I know people are pushing that case for Benton. I like Bentancur, good player, and I know people are trying to make him out to be a million times better than he is, but Moussa was just a different breed of footballer. Think we had Moussa with Ericsson. Just Moussa and Ericsson in the same team was just phenomenal.
I mean, do you remember that season we finished at White Hart Lane without losing a game? In that season, Moussa Dembele and Wanyama, they were like the best pair in the best central midfield partnership in the Premier League, and no one could get past them. They were just phenomenal because Wanyama was also technically unbelievable. And I think Dembele was one of those players where you put him in any top team in the world, Real Madrid, Barcelona, and he'll look like one of the best players on their team.
I always thought that the worst mistake with Dembele wasn't letting him go that year. It was letting him go before the Champions League had finished. It was everything you need in a Champions League final is a Dembele, not a Harry Winks or a Sissoko. But listen, what will be. Guys, we're down to the final two. And this isn't in order, by the way. What we do at the end, we'll say the 10 that Kuvva and I picked as the top 10 out of all of these. And I think without talking to each other about this, Kuvva, we got 9 the same, didn't we? And 1 different. We got 9
that's funny.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Guys, this next player is a player that was signed for 5 million initially, rising to 10 million. Played for 6 seasons for Tottenham, 7 if you include coming back on loan. Scored over 70 goals, won Player of the Year, got us off our seats, was one of those players that when we talk about the Kane and Son world-class debate, when you talk about this man, there is no debate. He went to Real Madrid. Both our last two did. Smashed it out the park at Real Madrid. Won about 4 or 5 Champions Leagues. Scored in 2 of the finals. What a 5 million. Gareth Bale. And I like to remember that Gareth Bale, not this Gareth Bale. Guys, left back, push to left wing, push to centre forward, push to playmaker. I just wish we'd had a better team for him to be playing in towards the end when he really started to look world class. What can be said about Gareth Bale?
Well, for me, one of the best players I've ever seen play for Spurs, especially in the latter years. And it proved it because at the time it was the world record transfer to the biggest team on the planet. And he then went up another level by playing with even better players, and he showed how good he was at Real Madrid in a team with Ronaldo and Modric and Kroos and Ramos and all these type of Marcelo and all these players. Like he was one of their best players apart from Ronaldo. I mean, some people will even say that in training, like he was better at free kicks than Ronaldo and stuff like that. I mean, that's another argument people can have another day, but. He in key moments in the biggest games, he used to rise to the occasions, and he single-handedly won them 2 Champions League titles, and he also won them a Spanish like FA Cup, the Copa del Rey.
Oh, that goal when he ran off the pitch.
I mean, he did those type of things in the biggest moments, and I think That's where
big players do it in big games. This
Yeah.
this is what we talk about a
And-
lot. The big players do it in the big
what we
games.
could have done with a prime Gareth Bale in the Poch era, I think he would have taken us off. A prime Gareth Bale in the Poch team would have taken us to that
Oh.
level of winning trophies. And I think
For
that's
sure.
what we needed. We needed someone like that. Someone who could just pull out a goal out of nothing when he wasn't playing well. And Gareth Bale used to do that. He used to, out of nowhere, he'd play like that West Ham goal, that West Ham game. All of a sudden, he just it gets that Tom Carroll gets that free kick. I think it was Tom Carroll's only ever assist, or was it Tom Carroll or Ryan Mason? One of them. Tom Carroll, I think.
Tom Carroll. It was Tom Carroll.
It was Tom Carroll. He gets tackled, gets up. Bell's like, "Give me the ball." Literally, one pass, takes a touch, bang, top corner, won the game. I mean, that was just that's what Gareth Bale was. It was unbelievable.
It felt like that season, Danny, that there were about, I'm sure there wasn't, but it felt like there was like 15 or 20 that were all rifled in from about 20, 25 yards when we were, let's be fair, we were playing football like we're playing now, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And Bale would just bail us out.
yeah, he would. And the funny thing is as well, it's like one of the things I always remember is, do you remember that game against Man United where we won at Old Trafford, right? And he got the ball. Dempsey scored the winner, but he got the ball. He got the ball and ran all the way through the middle of the pitch. And I remember after the game, and even now, Rio Ferdinand talks about that. And that was the one game where Rio Ferdinand turned around. He actually looked at himself and was like, "Am I actually losing it now as defender?" Because he saw that pace. And he's like, he couldn't keep up with it. He just the raw power and pace that Bale had, and the ability that he had to kind of. What was so unique about Bale is that he had so much power and pace that he could run through the whole pitch, run through a team, and yet still have the composure and ability to put it in the net beautifully, like it was effortless. And that he was just a specimen, like he was a freak of nature, Bale.
Kuvva, lots of people in the chat. I mean, I'm seeing things like Bale, the best British player ever, which is a great debate, which we're not going to have because it will go on forever. Best player I've seen in a Spurs shirt, fans are saying. I mean, for me, he's definitely in the top 5 I've seen for Tottenham. I mean, I was lucky enough to catch the tail end of Hoddle.
You saw
Gaza, Ginola, Waddle, Bale, Kane, but I mean, certainly in the last 20 years, certainly in the last 15 years for me, he's been the most exciting. Would you say in the last 15 years?
Yeah,
the
definitely.
most exciting.
I don't really need to add to anything, do I?
No, not really.
Bale. Tears through teams, taxi from Icon. Infamous hat trick in a game we lost, and we still remember it fondly because of that hat trick. Last minute winners, the amount of times he'd do that. One always sticks in mind that I enjoyed so much, and it was against West Ham when we're drawing 2-2. Time ticking down, and he's way out and just sizes it up, and wow, it's just you're expecting it. You just expect it. That's what I was saying. That's what puts him ahead of so many other players.
Yeah.
He got on the ball and you thought he would do it. Doesn't matter where he was on the pitch. You're thinking he can run at him and bang it in the top bins. It's like absolutely awesome player. Best.
Do you remember?
Sorry, go on.
Just saying. Do you remember the volley versus Stoke?
One of my favourite goals he scored.
When it came over and it was on the other.
That was it Aaron Lennon who lofted in the ball?
Yeah,
and the way he had his legs volley, so high up.
Yeah. Left-footed volley. He waited to the last moment to make contact with it rather than snatching at it. Yeah, guys, I know.
Again, when we talked earlier about Dele Alli, I'm not putting him in the same bracket, about adapting your game as you go along in your career. This is a guy that started at left back, then went to left wing in a 4-4-2, then sort of started being a kind of number 10 for AVB. And then before you knew it, he was like our striker, went to Real Madrid, did it all. I don't think we're going to see the likes of Gareth Bale again at the Lane for a very long time. I genuinely don't, unless we get a real stroke of luck with a young player who comes through. And
my prediction is it will be when Harry Kane retires and we have a season of thinking, oh God, when's the next great thing going to come along? And then it'll just be somebody out of the blue.
It will need to be. It will need to be when Harry Kane goes. All right, guys, let's move on to and this isn't in order, by the way. I just left these two because they're class. This guy came in too lightweight, not good enough. He won't hack the Premiership. I remember hearing it all.
That's right, Mido.
Mido.
Oh,
yeah,
Mido, what a guy.
Mido.
What a guy. My brother.
Look, guys, what can be said? This is a guy that has still just been tearing up the World Cup at the age of 37. He played for us for a number of years, then didn't get his move to Chelsea, didn't get the move, still then played, hats off to him. He wanted to leave, but still stayed and played brilliantly, got the move to a bigger club than Chelsea. And boy, did he, I remember they were talking about that he was a flop when he went to Real Madrid. Do you remember the Spanish press?
Savva, yeah. He was voted the flop of the season that season.
Flop of the season.
Yeah.
And he's now been there for however many years, won not only 5 Champions Leagues, multiple La Ligas, Cups, Super Cups. He also is the player that broke the Messi-Ronaldo monopoly in the Ballon d'Or. Yeah. How good? I mean, we thought Dembele was. How good was Modric as a central midfielder?
I think in my lifetime, Sav, the best I've ever seen. In my lifetime, I mean, obviously, I was never lucky enough to see the Gaza years. I've seen obviously lots of highlights of Gaza and stuff like that, and I know how unbelievable it was. But in terms of a foreign player coming to England, for me, the best foreign player midfielder we've ever seen at Spurs, in my opinion.
Ooh, tough one there. I'm thinking Ozzy
Okay, maybe Ozzy Ardiles, but then again, you have to look at what he's done. What Modric has done in the game is just phenomenal. He went into that Real Madrid team and he's been their best player for 10 years. One of the best players for 10 years.
I mean, the fact that this guy is 37 and still runs games, like, it's not like he's 37, he's doing okay. He's still running games of football. It's like he's like Messi in that respect. It's like we all go, oh, they're old men now, up there, and with his passing that just this is why, Kuvva, sorry, I'll just say, why when people go to me, oh, you don't think anyone's world class? These are my benchmarks. Bales, Modric's. These are my benchmarks of world class, not Mo Salah's and Heung-min Son's. I'm so sorry, and I'm not going to debate that, but these are my benchmarks. These footballers.
Yeah, it's basically looking at it. Harry Kane's going to be idolised for a long time at this club. Modric is a better player.
Oh, hang on, just quickly. Stuart, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Glenn Hoddle. I'm not. That's an interesting one for me, Kuvva.
I said for me, he's the best foreign player we've ever seen. Like in my lifetime. But I don't know. I don't think he's the best ever Spurs midfielder.
Right.
Glenn Hoddle and Gaza
and Hoddle. Oof.
Nah,
it's really difficult with the best of all time things anyway, because we won't have lived long enough to have seen some of the all time greats.
Yeah. Of course. Oh, for sure. I mean, the difficulty is as well, when you look at a Gaza and you look at a Modric, again, both centre mids, very different style of play. Modric is I am going to keep the game ticking over. Give me, do you know what I mean? He is I'll have 100 touches.
Do you know what, Savva, as well?
Game. Gaza was more get on the ball. He's dynamic when he Gaza.
Yeah.
Gaza was get on the ball.
It was more like the Bale type. The flair player who could run
in
past players and score
–
unbelievable goals. But people always want to have this argument about Luka Modric. The problem is Luka Modric's best football was at Real Madrid, and people are talking about Spurs. If we're talking about his Spurs career, he wasn't the greatest of all time. It's when he went to Real Madrid, that's when he was the player he became, like this Ballon d'Or winner, right? But at Spurs, in terms of his Spurs career, was he the best ever we've ever seen? I don't think so.
Hard to say, isn't it? Because he stood out. The difficulty is right, when you're standing out at a club like Spurs, the big thing is, can you then, when you get your big move, how many players we see get their big move and they've gone from the little ponds to, can you stand out?
Yeah.
Bale stood out. Modric stood out. there are many players. Hazard went to Real Madrid, right? Do you know what I mean? Didn't, for whatever reason, didn't stand out.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, I mean, listen, can you imagine having a Modric, a Gaza, a Hoddle, an Ardiles in this team now? Yeah, it just amazing. Just amazing. Guys, just last but not least, because we are getting up to the 3-hour mark. Kuvva, we picked our 10, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Shall I read out the 9 we picked that we agreed on?
Yep.
Yeah, and then we'll talk to them about Danny. We're ending in a few minutes anyway, mate. Yeah, these are the 9 Kuvva and I agreed on. Okay, we agreed on Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen.
Is this in any order, Sav? Or
No, not in any order. No.
Oh,
Just
right.
these are the 9 of the 10 we agreed on. So it was Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen, Carl Walker, Hugo Lloris, Moussa Dembele, Christian Eriksen, Gareth Bale, Luka Modric, and Dimitar Berbatov are the 9 we agreed on. Kuvva, do you want to tell them the last one, who we had versus each other?
Yeah, it's a bit of a wrestling one, this one. You got, on the one hand, Van der Vaart. Oh God, I feel like changing my mind just by when I said that. Who I didn't go for, Savva did. But I kind of agree with him, even though I disagreed. And on the other hand, Michael Carrick, who's absolutely incredible player for us.
I'd take either.
Yeah, it's what do you want, the flair and excitement, or do you just want the sheer quality taking the team along at all times?
And funny enough, we need both right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
look,
that's a hard one. For me, I'd probably go with Van der Vaart just because of what Van der Vaart gave me as a Spurs fan. That's why I'd put Van der Vaart.
A stiffy, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Not many players do that now for me, Kuvva.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Guys, listen, either way, it's a shame, isn't it? We've not built on any of that.
Yep.
I wonder why, Sam. I wonder why.
Look, every now and then it is good, guys, to have a little trip down memory lane, because that's what this club's built on. This club is built on the players that started the club over 100 years ago, to the players that started winning trophies massively in the 60s, to the players in the 70s and 80s that were bringing home European trophies, to the 90s for the FA Cup and the League Cup, to the 2000s with the League Cup, to the last 15 years of nothing. But guys, it's been a pleasure. Danny, thanks for joining for so long.
Absolute pleasure. Really
Kuvva, as always, thank you everyone in the chat. Hope you've enjoyed it. Something different today rather than the doom and gloom of transfer windows and ENIC and Levy and Conte and Paratici and all that kind of stuff. I'll be live tonight if anyone wants to watch. I'm making my debut on the 12-man podcast. I'm replacing Tapping Tobes for the night. So if anyone wants to watch that at 10 p.m, I'll be on that representing Tottenham.
Have we done a Premiership version of one of these lists before? I've got a feeling we might have.
I mean, can you imagine how long it would bloody take? the best 10 signings in the Premier League history.
I've got it. No, what we could nail it down to is one from each club.
Oh, Kuvva, do you know the beauty of having a YouTube channel? You can do this whenever you want, my friend. Whenever you want, you can do this.
Let's go again right now.
Right, strap in, everybody. We're going until 8 o'clock. No, guys, thanks very much. Please smash the likes. Please keep subscribing to Kuvva and the Kang, Free Spurs Boys, Tottenham on Tour for Danny, Savva Talks Football for me. Thank you very much as always. Really enjoyed it. Good laugh. And as always, Danny,
Levy out.
Levy out.